Hello, wherever you find yourself, this is KMTV-USA, and we are broadcasting to you from Missouri, Kansas City. My name is Nathan Charles. On today's edition of the program, Let's Talk About It. And as you know, Let's Talk About It is a production from KMTV-USA, and the regular presenter of this program is Charlotte Cole, and I'm sitting in for her on today's edition of the program. So wherever you find yourself, let's have a discussion. And today's edition of the program on Let's Talk About It, we are going to be talking about the draft national budget. And to discuss the draft national budget, I've invited a student of economics, a youth advocate, somebody who knows issues in Liberia, who've been perusing, university student can say, who've been perusing the document, the draft national budget. Martin K. and Kollie, he will be our guest in split second. So like, share, invite others to come and listen to what is in the draft national budget. What is in it for you? What is in it for the agriculture sector? And under this edition, we're not going to be discussing the entire budget. We're going to be looking at a particular area. Another time, we will invite our guest, Martin K. and Kollie, to come and show more highlights. We'll also be inviting government officials, those who help to craft the budget from the executive, to come and explain. Our representatives, our lawmakers, who are also perusing that document. We'll also be inviting them, but we have invited Martin K. and Kollie. Let's bring on our guests in a few seconds and to discuss this draft national budget. So please like this video, please share, come and hear, because do not overlook this. We need to hold our lawmakers because the budget is before them. We need to encourage them to support more areas. So you and I, it's a voluminous document. We need to know what's inside. So at this time, let's invite our guest, Martin K. and Kollie. Welcome to the Let's Talk About It, Martin. How you doing?
Thank you, Nathan, and thanks to KMTV family for the opportunity to appear once more. The last time I was on KMTV, I had a debate with the Assistant Minister of the Ministry of Information. We were on this network providing facts for public consumption. So it is always good to be here, Nathan, to provide authentic analysis for our people, the Liberian people, and permit me to extend my greetings to all Liberians. Whether you are in Liberia or all of Liberia, I want to salute the resilience and fortitude of the Liberian people during these very difficult times. Thank you very much, Nathan, for the invite.
How you been coping during the COVID crisis? Are you safe? Are your family all safe? And you're still in exile? Are you back home?
You know, how can I be back home, Nathan, when you have a dictatorial establishment presiding over the Liberian Republic? Critical voices cannot go back home because Liberia, under the CDC-led government, has become a zone of terror, especially for critical voices and independent journalists. Those who often disagree with the government do not have a flexible space, do not have a conducive environment to express their dissents or disagreements with the we-are-led government. The Republic now has a newborn dictator. You are a witness, Nathan. You can watch a lot of videos from country, you know, and you know what is happening in the country is really sad. This is a national nightmare. It is a tragedy. That's why I just said on my Facebook page, Liberia as a country is in the reverse at a jet-less speed. And the pilot of this reverse plane is no one else but a clueless celebrity. who has no vision and agenda for the country. So basically, I've been here in exile. My family back home isn't safe. About 2 months ago, they were threatened by some senior government officials. However, we are not backing down. I'm not surrendering this cause. I cannot surrender my boots and baton. This cause is in pursuit of social justice and economic freedom.
Okay, he is Martin K. and Kollie. Let's go now into our discussion. First thing, we want to know from you, what is a national budget?
Basically, there are many definitions. There are many implications of a national budget, depending who is defining it, depending on the context. But a budget, a government budget, right, is a plan. It's an instrument, right, that estimates or manages the public resources. I'll give you a practical example because a lot of people are witnessing, so I have to break every technical, word I say on this platform. For example, Nathan, if somebody goes to the market, right? Hello?
Go ahead, Mr. Kollie. You are live. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So if somebody is going to a market, you take your pen and paper, and you do a draft, right? What you have with you as revenue or income, and what do you intend to spend? You write all of those items on the paper and you go to the market. This is how the national budget is like. So the national budget is just an estimation of revenue and expenses for a specified period. For example, 12 months. So our budget period is for 12 months, and it is divided into 4 quarters, according to the 2009 Public Financial Management Law. So the budget year begins the 1st of July, and it ends the 31st of June the following year. So from July to September, that's the first quarter of the budget year. So you have July, August, September. The second quarter of the budget year, October, November, December. And the third quarter of the budget year, January, February, March. The last quarter, which is the fourth quarter of the budget year, April, May, June. That is how our national budget works in terms of structuring it in quarters. So quarter accounts for 3 months. It is important for us to say all of these things because a lot of people are following, so that they get to understand what the budget process is. Yeah, go ahead. You're asking questions.
Just for more education, because we'll delve into that, but we want to know from you, who craft the budget? Who come up with these projections? How is the budget craft?
Basically, there are 2 branches of government that are actively involved in the crafting of the budget, according to Section 6 and Section 7 of the 2009 Public Financial Management Law. You have the executive branch and you have the legislative branch. These are the 2 branches that are involved directly with the allotment and the appropriation of national resources to various agencies and line ministries of government. So this is how the budget process begins. It begins from the executive. The president has the authority, right? The president has the authority, according to the budget law, to submit a draft to the national legislature. Draft submitted. So from the angle of the executive, what they do is they allot. There is a difference between allotment and appropriation. The executive allots, the legislature appropriates. It is good to understand all of these technical terms because a lot of people are following before we get in depth with providing some interesting analysis relative to the 2020-2021 budget. So when the budget is submitted, the legislature usually invites heads of various agencies and line ministries. Number one, to submit what we call performance report, financial performance report for the last fiscal year, because you have to justify what you did with the last money we appropriated before we begin discussing what you need now for this new fiscal year. So when that financial performance report is submitted by the various ministries and agencies, the legislature now opens up the draft budget submitted by the finance minister for public hearings. This is where the public comes in, because the budget process is a two-way street. Those in government and those that are governed participate during the process. So the public participates during the budget hearing. That's why usually you see at the legislature, a lot of Liberians are there to listen, to participate, to ask questions, and so forth. You know, and the reason why the public usually participates, because it is accounted for through the open budget initiative process. So after the public hearing, when all of the ministries and agencies defend their individual budget, then the legislature pass on the budget. That process is called ratification. So the legislature now can decide to adjust. For example, if the budget of the Ministry of Finance, which is now 90.2 million, is too high in the purview of the legislature, they can reduce that. That is their power. They can adjust those allotments made by the executive. So after all of those adjustments, after all of those debates, after all of those public hearings, the legislature now passes on the national budget. They could decide to reduce the total amount of the fiscal envelope. Currently, it is 535.4 million. They could say, no, this is too much. We do not have the productive capacity to raise this money. Already over 69% of our national budget is dependent on taxes, domestic revenue. So after all of those analysis and considering what we usually provide, because I've been providing a lot of technical analysis on the budget, you go on my Facebook page, I have provided almost 5, telling the legislature what they should do in terms of breaching fiscal gaps, inconsistencies, flaws, as well as discrepancies. If that process is done, the legislature now ratifies the budget through 2/3 majority votes. After the ratification, the budget is sent back to the executive through the office of the president. The president has the right under the budget law to either approve the budget by signing it into law or veto, and he must express and justify why he vetoed the budget. If he vetoes the budget, he sends back to the legislature with his justifications for vetoing the budget. Now, if the legislature also disagrees with the vetoing of the president, they also have the right to override such veto. To do that, 2/3 majority of both houses are required. So this is the whole budget process. But if the president approves, it becomes the national financial plan of the country.
Oh, okay.
Immediately the president signs into law, it becomes the national financial plan of the country. That is what we use for the entire fiscal period. Except where there is a need for readjustment, then there where you hear people talking about recast budget because we could not meet our revenue target or we could not meet projected revenue. Therefore, we need to readjust. We need to bring it down a bit because we didn't raise the money we expected to raise. There where you hear people talking about recast budget, need for adjustment, need for reappropriation, and all of those terms come into play. So basically, that's the budget process. It begins from the executive, it ends with the executive. So in the middle is the legislature, which ratifies.
Okay, now my next question for the benefit of our audience. I mean, let me just say some of these things, not because we know them, but it's good to explain them. Other people don't know. So when we ask some of the questions, like, the process, that was a good explanation because people need to know. I know some of our viewers, people who listening, they know the process, but some people on this platform don't know. So don't think the question we're asking or the things he's saying is of no essence. Why
Right.
others don't know that. Now, what do government look at before projecting to say, okay, I will do $10 in this budget. You talk about forecast. What are some indications they look at? Can you provide more depth? What do they look at? You talk about revenue. What kind of revenue do they look at, and stuff like that?
Basically, if before you even plan, you need to know what you have, or before you even project, you need to understand your ability to raise revenue, right? So the government looks at a lot of factors before coming up with the budget. That is why, even according to the budget law, nature, before the government can even submit a draft budget, there is a process called midterm fiscal framework. And the intent of that framework is to basically analyze the performance, the financial performance of the government last fiscal year before projecting the other fiscal year. The financial or the fiscal framework captures the plans, the programs of the government. Then the government say, okay, this year we are implementing all of these programs and all of these projects. Do we have the money? Because every program is cost intensive. Every project is cost intensive. The government lay out its plans and projects for the year, but to implement those plans and projects, you need money. So then the government begins to analyze what it did last fiscal year. Did the budget perform, or did the budget underperform? It's based on all of those data that the government does projection going forward or for the next fiscal year. So, for example, let's analyze the tax revenue for last fiscal year. Revenue in terms of taxes have been falling. You know, a lot of people have not been paying taxes, and there are factors responsible for that. We are in COVID-19. The business climate is poor. You know, a lot of NGOs are leaving the country. People are losing their job. And when people lose their job, there is reduction in income tax. When companies close, there is reduction in corporate tax. You know, so there are a lot of factors interplay. So government consider all of these things before projecting, you know, before projecting the total amount for the budget year, which will be used as the plan, the financial instrument going forward.
Okay, that's great. I mean, some of our viewers understand I think the process leading towards budget. When you hear the word budget, you know what it means and the process. Now, let's go into items. We're going to hit few items within the budget because of time. So we're going to look at one, the education sector. We're also going to look at because the education is the first, because you are an educator and you graduated from the University of Liberia. Also, we're going to be looking at the health and agriculture. We always say agriculture is the bread bag of all nations. Agriculture, we're also going to be looking at that for you to tell us what's there and what your own input. We're also going to be looking at this major fight, the County Development Fund, CDF. We're going to be looking at that in the budget. And the big chunk of this interview will be on what's inside for the executive, talking about George Weah and some of his ministers or ministries. We're going to be looking at that lastly. So my question first, what have you seen in the budget for education and what you think can be allocated to education and how?
Thank you, Nato. You know, one of our major challenges in Liberia is what I describe as human capital gap. The human capital gap is very wide. And until we can bridge that gap, our economy will continue to move at a snail-paced level. And this is where education comes in. Education is very important because to run our various ministries. Hello, Nato?
I'm hearing you, Martin. I'm hearing you. You are live.
Hello?
Yes, you are live. You are live, Martin. We're talking to Martin.
Yeah, so, yeah, but I went low. I don't know. I don't know whether it's the network.
Probably somebody was trying to call you on Messenger. That's what happened. So you either shut down your Messenger as you're speaking. Sometimes some people, when you're on the live platform, they want to tell you, "Oh, I'm listening to you." Then they start to call you. So that's why you experience a low audio.
Yeah. So basically, it is unfortunate that the government had to reduce the budget of a number of tertiary, secondary institutions in the country. For example, I want to begin with the University of Liberia. For example, last fiscal year, Nathan, the University of Liberia had the total of $17,389,032. That was the budget of the state-run university. Even in the midst of what they had last year, there were still challenges. Lecturers could not be paid. The university did not even have money for operations. This amount could only cover personnel costs. Hence, the government turned its back on those existing challenges and decided to cut the budget of the University of Liberia from 17.3 million to 16 million. This is unfortunate. The University of Liberia has... Hello?
Go ahead, Martin. You are live. You're live. I'm hearing you.
The University of Liberia has 4 different campuses. So why were you allowed 16 million to run the state-run university that has over 20,000 students plus support staff, faculty members, and so forth? This is irrational. This is irrational. It doesn't work. Considering the cost of living, the rate of inflation, the difficulties in the country, it really doesn't apply. Let's go to Monrovia Consolidated School System. Look at what they did to Monrovia Consolidated School System. They reduced their budget from $4,064,434 to $3,896,057. In Monrovia Consolidated School System, you're talking about most of those public schools in the Monrovia area, right? Under the government of Liberia, under the Ministry of Education. How can you run almost all of the public schools in Monrovia or in Moserado County with just 3.8 million? It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't really make sense to me. Look at what they gave the National Commission on Higher Education later. National Commission on Higher Education, imagine, a body that regulates universities, colleges, vocational institutions, seminaries, and so forth. They gave the National Commission on Higher Education a budget of $226,528, less than $300,000, whilst they are giving the first lady of the country $700,000, almost $1 million. Are they really serious to invest in education? In my opinion, I don't think so, Nathan. And this is my own fundamental problem with the government of President Weir. They have neglected very sensitive sectors, strategic sectors that are pointed in the direction of improving the lives of the ordinary people. While they have reduced the budgetary allotments of these public-driven institutions, they have increased the budget of their offices. So do they really have the interests of the ordinary people at heart? The answer is no. The answer is no, Nathan. Let's go to Tubman. Let's go to William V.S. Tubman University, for example. Last fiscal year, 4.9 million. Let me be specific. $4,979,086. William V.S. Tubman University in Maryland, a regional university. Maryland County depends on that university. Sino County depends on that university. Grand Crew County depends on that university. River G County depends on that university, as well as Grand Judea County. You're talking about 5 counties depending on a regional university. And you are giving that university just $4,400,000 $486,095. How is that rational, in your opinion, Nathan? Let's be fair. We are not fair to our people. The national cake of the country is not equitably distributed. It's not equitably distributed. When we get to counter development, then you will know what I'm saying. How cruel these people are, how insensitive they are to the plights of those who elected them to serve. Let's go forward. Look at the situation with, for example, Nathan, look at the situation with Webo Rural Teacher Training Center. The budget of this teacher training center was around $597,154. They've called it to $418,909. Kakata Rural Teacher Training Center or Institute, $862,600. That was the budget. They've called it to $761,181. So I often wonder, Nathan, whether these people are actually having any plan to improve the education sector. And one of the reasons why economic growth is at negative 2.5%, according to the World Bank latest report, is because we are not investing in education. We are not investing in primary education. We are not investing in secondary education. We are not investing in tertiary education. We are not also investing in TVET, technical vocational education program, or training. So in as much our human capacity gap is very wide, then the quality of labor that comes to the economy is very poor. Because for your economy to grow, you need labor. You don't just need labor, but you need quality labor. You need people who are competent. You need people who are qualified. You need people who are employable. In economics, Nathan, there is a difference between employment and employability. Yes, employment is when you are able and ready to work, but it does not mean you are employable. You only become employable when you know how to do what has been given you as a task to perform. So there is a difference. That's the difference between employment and employability. So we are not only crying for employment opportunities, but we also have an issue with employability. Okay, for example, we have jobs in surplus. Who are we depending on to do those jobs, even if we have jobs in surplus? We don't have the qualities. We don't have the quality of workers, employees we need, because our education system is weak. We are producing weaklings, people who cannot compete in the job market. So we need to improve the system of education in the country. It's messy, Nathan. It's messy. If we bridge the human capital gap, I can tell you for a fact, we don't need to import expatriates. We don't need to import Ghanaians. Do you know how many Ghanaians are at various concession companies? Because we don't have the requisite skills in Liberia. So my own concern is, let's invest in education. But look at what they are giving most of the education institutions. For example, look at the subsidy they are giving Cottington University, $256,941. Does that make sense to anybody to run Cottington University? They are giving this kind of subsidy? No, it doesn't make sense, Nathan. So all I'm saying to Mr. Twe, all I'm saying to Mr. Weir, let's prioritize education. Unfortunately, the regime does not understand the power of education. They do not understand the output that education can produce if we have a literate population that is well prepared, well equipped, competent, and ready to perform both in the private and public sector and compete for jobs with other foreign nationals. That is the kind of population we need to build. That is the kind of generation of employees or laborers we need to build, Nathan.
Exactly. As you are speaking, I'm going through the budget for various counties, university or colleges, and I'm seeing most of them have not even gotten up to $1 million. I think I probably saw Nima or somebody with $1 million budget, and yeah. So another thing, somebody made mention of the University of Liberia. You complained that, hey, the budget was cut short. But the University of Liberia is President we are now tuition free at the University of Liberia. Don't you think it's rational to have a $1 million cut in the budget?
Nathan, the thing most people don't know, this 16 million, right? They capture what they are giving the university for free education in this 16 million. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So, President, we are quote unquote tuition free education. The cost of his tuition free education is captured in this 16 million that has been allotted by the executive for the University of Liberia. So nobody should not be deceived. The University of Liberia will not get extra money besides the 16 million. Are you aware that they are still owing the university from last fiscal year? They have not even given the entire $17,389,032 that was appropriated by the legislature for last fiscal year. Most of the agencies, in fact, most of these schools, most of these tertiary educations, education institutions, including community colleges, they haven't even received all of their money from last fiscal year. The government is challenged. You know, the government is challenged, yet it wants to do far more than its ability to raise funds, which is not rational, which is not possible. Unrealistic projections. At the end of the day, the budget ends in deficit. Every other year, there is a balanced budget that is usually forecasted or projected by the government. At the end of the day, we end in deficit. So why are we not thinking? Why are we not thinking to rationally project or forecast? We are making the same mistake every other fiscal year, without analyzing the variables and the odds to arrive at a more appreciable forecast, so that at least our budget can one day be balanced, our budget can one day end in surplus. So, like you rightly said, I don't think the regime has interest in education, because if you are giving tertiary institutions, some of them far less than 300,000, and you are giving Cloud, we are 700,000. Can you imagine? Let me just go to some of their appropriations or some of their allotments. Look at the office of the president, for example, Nato.
Martin, we're still on education. Before we go to that, we're still on education. But because I see from the Grand that's a Grand Crew Community College, I see a sharp increase in the budget, because the projection for 2021-2022 is $389,610. In budget year 20 it's 300,000 rather for 2020-2021. Fiscal year 2019 and 2020 was 134. So there was a sharp increase in that budget. But I'm seeing like Lofa Community College and other areas, there is no allotment for lubrication or maintenance of vehicles. Have you come across some of these cardinal issues, salaries for employees? I see some level of decline at some of the colleges. Javier Community College, for example, I'm seeing the projection. Okay, Javier Community College is receiving, the projection is 541,000. So you are saying that, hey, there is a need for them to pump up the budget. How much can you suggest for a county with a college or university to be having? What would be that right budget for a county to run the university?
The first thing is, Nathan, the first thing is there can be no economic growth, or there can be no economic stability or development in any country if there is no human development. Human development comes first, because to build roads, to cultivate our soil, you need human beings, and labor comes from human beings. So if we cannot improve on human development, we will continue to be called a third world country, a developing country, or an undeveloped country. This is why I'm encouraging the government of President Weah to at least go by what UNESCO is saying, the UNESCO threshold, at least 20% of our national budget should go toward education, Nathan. At least 20%. 20% of our national budget should be allotted or appropriated to the education sector if we are really serious about making progress and developing that country. A lot of these schools, Nathan, nobody should deceive you. A lot of these schools, including university and community colleges, are challenged. They are very challenged. To date, ask or investigate to some of these schools. Lecturers, professors are not even taking pay. The amount you are seeing here, Nathan, can barely cover personnel costs, can barely pay salaries. You know, so how does the government expect these institutions to operate?
Yes,
if you are only providing funding, to
in the memo in the draft national budget, a summary, I'm seeing the educational sector total appropriation is $77.9 million, US $77.9 million for fiscal year 2020-2021. And government is saying that reflects a 9.7% increase from last year, 2019 to 2020. That was a COVID-19 recast value. There was a COVID-19 recast value of 71.0 million. So there is an increase in the country's educational budget, 9.7%. So how much do you want in that budget? It's 77.9 million for education, out of the 500 and plus budget.
Nathan, quite frankly, the question you just asked is very important. And like you said, the only reason why there is an increment because of COVID-19, right? So the increment is not even normal. It's not normal. We have a challenge, a health crisis. So the only reason why this increment does exist is because of COVID-19. Like last fiscal year, we were around 71 million. We're around 71 million. But what I'm asking for, Nathan, is for us to increase this amount to at least 20% of the overall fiscal envelope, which is 535.4 million. That is the threshold, the international threshold. You go to Ghana, education budget accounts for around 24%. You know, 77.9 million. It's not only it's not even 9%. It's not even 9 or 10% of the draft national budget, the total. No. So we are still lacking behind. We are still lacking behind. Look at the quality of teachers we have in our classroom, for example. Can they really produce quality in nature? You have people who barely read or write teaching primary students. You know, you have people in universities who only have first degrees simply because we do not have the resources in the sector to get rid of some of these loopholes or gaps. Because if you bring in a lecturer of quality, a lecturer who is qualified to replace the man who just has a BSc degree, you need to pay that lecturer in line with his credential. So you need money. That's why it is important, Nathan, for us to increase the budget of the education sector. 77.9 million is just a drop in the ocean. It cannot even cover personnel expense or cost. Go to the I just spoke with some students at the University of Liberia. Lecturers are planning to strike because they have not received their pay for almost 2 months. This is happening everywhere. You go to Grand Bassa Community College, the same, Nathan. You go to Tottenham University, the same. You go to Grand Judah Community College, the same. You go to Lofa Community College, the same. Nima Community College, Bon Community College. You go to Sinjay, the same. Everywhere. The system is challenged. And with this quote-unquote free tuition policy that was announced by President Weah, without taking into consideration the cost of funding costs, it's just a compounded problem for the sector.
Yeah. In short, Liberia, the entire projection, we are not even 10% projection for education. It's just 9.7%. So we hope that we have in education, we have more than 10 or even 15%. And let me give our viewers a few, as Martin takes some briefer, few highlights. As we come back, we hit the agriculture sector. So Martin, you can go back to your point. Let's go into agriculture, but we'll give you a few time to wrap up on education. But let me give my viewers some information. The educational sector, according to the projection of the 2020-2021 budget, is education sector is 77.9 million US dollars. It's a projection, and that reflects, according to government, 9.7%. That's one of it. Also, we look at security and rule of law. I see $79.4 million is being pumped into that sector, and that depicts 14.8% of total expenditure and a 2.7% increase when compared with last year. So you say there was a 2%. So security and rule of law, 14%. Now, we have energy and environmental sector, $12.3 million. That's just 2% increment from last year budget. Also, now Martin is back. I'm sure he have taken us on briefer. Let me just read what's there for the agriculture sector, and Martin will discuss more. Government says that they say a comparative analysis of the allotted allocation reflects a 48.8%. 48.8% is what they allotted in this year budget, and that is US 6.4 million allotment as compared to last year. So there is an increase, according to government, of US 6.4 million. So Martin, if you are back, let's look at the agriculture sector. Martin is still trying to take some briefer. I was just reading what was there for education and agriculture, security, rule and law. Let's look at the agriculture budget. What's your own disagreement with the agriculture sector? And as a matter of fact, Martin, guess what? I just went to the store and I got myself a big banana. Yeah, and I have some grapes. I sure they are part of the agriculture, right? And I pay good money.
That's good. We are about to talk about agriculture later, and which is important.
Yeah, so government is having that amount. Everybody says agriculture is the bread bag of all nations. Agriculture has that amount in the budget. So we want to hear from you. Can you tell our audience what's in there for agriculture in Liberia? Because 48.8% that reflects an increase in fiscal year 2020-2021. So there is a 6.4 million. Yeah,
interestingly,
increase in agriculture. It left from last year they had 4.3 million for agriculture. This year,
can you imagine?
0.4 million, and they are saying it's 48.8%.
And these people in Neto are not even ashamed to say there's an increase. How can you give the entire agriculture sector $6,425,415? You're talking about 6.4 million, the entire agriculture sector, not even the Ministry of Agriculture. And if you look at all of the international reports, including reports from the IMF, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, 70% of all employment opportunities combined in Liberia come from the agriculture sector. So all the employment opportunities in Liberia, 70% of those opportunities are from the agriculture sector, to tell you how important the sector is. So how can you give a sector that produces 70% of your jobs 6.4 million. Does that make sense to anybody? Is this a form of rational budgeting? No. They are giving the agriculture sector 6.4 million. They are giving the security guys of the president, EPS, Executive Protection Services, they're giving EPS 7.1 million. So we are spending more on personal security for the president and his family than we are spending in the agriculture sector. They are giving NSA, National Security Agency, 7.6 million. They are giving the entire agriculture sector 6.4 million. Does that make sense to anybody? And every day we complain about food security. As I speak to you currently, there is food shortage in the Southeast. It was on all of our networks, news outlets. Food shortage in the Southeast, to be specific. In the midst of food shortage, Nato, in the midst of food insecurity, in the midst of chronic malnutrition, we are appropriating or allotting 6.4 million for agriculture. This doesn't make sense. The president just borrowed 30 million from the IMF to buy a few bags of rice in an effort to implement his quote-unquote stimulus package. You see, the leadership does not have vision, Nathan. I cannot be president of Liberia. My government borrows 30 million from an international financial firm like the IMF. And then I just invest the entire 30 million to buy a few bags of rice from India or China. And after the people finish eating the rice, that's it. Do you know the cost of establishing a very large farm, a mechanized farm, Nathan? 5.2 million. So if I was President Weah, or if I were President Weah, I would have taken more than half of that amount. Probably I would have taken 15.6 million of the 30 million to establish 3 regional farms. 5.2, 5.2, 5.2. 15.6 million United States dollars can give you 3 large farms in 3 different regions and get your people to the soil working. Instead of you importing over 400 million worth of rice on an annual basis, you will be able to feed yourselves, and you will also be able to export the surplus that you will produce from your soil as a result of investment in the agriculture sector. But what this government is interested in, Nature, it's just about consumption. They borrow millions of dollars every other month just to pay civil servants, to pay themselves astronomical salaries and allowances, and they do not care about investment. And investment brings or yields returns. When you invest in the agriculture sector, you get returns, Nature. The government does not only get income taxes or corporate taxes from those firms and institutions investing, probably private sector investment, right? The government also saves money. The money that is used to export rice. Are you aware that the government is subsidizing that process to import rice to the country? Millions of dollars. The government subsidizes rice import. Instead of us spending 400 million on an annual basis just to import rice, just rice, and we're having 500 hectares of arable land, according to FAO, Food Agriculture Organization. Why can we save? Because when you send 400 million abroad, it means 400 million is leaving your economy. That's a leakage. And when 400 million leaves your economy, the demand for foreign currency becomes high. And when the demand for foreign currency becomes high, there is inflation. Whenever demand for foreign currency goes up, inflation goes up. Inflation goes up, and your local currency depreciates. So you see the effect. So we should be focusing more on export. How do we produce more goods and services to export instead of importing more goods and services to the country? Because it is against us when we import, but it is in our favor when we export, because we attract foreign currencies to the economy that reduces the liquidity gap between the dual currency regimes that we are using in Liberia.
Yeah, if you look at
So
the
basically,
if you look at the Liberia Agriculture Commodity Regulatory Authority, some of the achievements they said, because you made mention of the export, they said they have licensed 12 exporters and 7 buying agents. They also rehabilitated 78 acres of their farm in Grand Bassa County, particularly renovated their head offices at the Freeport Monrovia, recruited, trained, and developed 8 quality controlled officer and 8 inspectors. That's
come
some
on,
of the
Nathan. Come on, Nathan. Look at the budget of the Liberia. Look,
export. Yeah, they licensed 12 exporter and 7 buying
what
agents.
you know, Nathan, the farm, whatever they are talking about, is
In
done
Grand-
at a subsistence level. Subsistence farming. I'm talking about mechanized farming, Nathan, where we use technology, where we use machines, equipment. You understand it? That is the kind of farming I'm talking about. That is the kind of farming now the government of Sierra Leone is investing in. Go on the website of the Ministry of Agriculture, Sierra Leone. See the work they are doing. They are establishing regional farms, mechanized farming. They are involved with not subsistence farming, where the Liberia Agricultural Commodity Regulatory Authority goes and establish a small place called farm and just get bitter ball and pepper. Is that what you call farming? That's subsistence farming. You understand it? What I'm saying, Nature, subsistence farming does not give you the number of jobs you need. Subsistence farming does not give the government the amount of revenue it needs. No. What does that is mechanized farming, industrialized farming. This is why I want to recommend to the government an industrialized approach. So we need and have an industrialized economy, or to shift towards an industrialized economy, we need to invest in electricity or energy. It's very key. The reason why a lot of investors are not attracted to the country, you don't have a stable source of power. And investors will not come to the country and begin to use generator power. It's costly. So why can't we invest in dams? Why can't we invest in hydros? Why can't we are only producing 88 megawatts. 88 megawatts can only serve 12% of the population. Since 1847, we can only boast of 88 megawatts. 12% of the population has access to electricity. Can you imagine? It means 88% of the population lacks access to electricity. So how do companies, how do the industries come to the country to invest? When even your own people, you cannot provide household electricity. Can you provide electricity to companies and industries? So let's take an industrialized approach to economic productivity. That is the only way we can create macroeconomic stability. We can create jobs. We can expand our markets. We can reduce import. We can expand exports. We can attract foreign currencies. The revenue base of the government can expand. Our fiscal envelope could jump from 505.4 million to 1 billion if we begin to invest in the agriculture sector, because 70% of all of our jobs in our country come from the agriculture sector. So why are we giving the agriculture sector 6.4 million nature? For God's sake, is this really rational? And every day Samuel 12 goes on radio, he tells you the only way we can jumpstart this economy except we invest in agriculture. He has an opportunity now to put more money in agriculture. He puts 6.4 million. He gives the personal security guards of the president 7.1 million. He gives NSA 7.6 million. He gives the office of the president 10.8 million. How does that make sense to anybody? We can't feed ourselves. We are still depending on India, Pakistan, and China for our staple food. Recently, there was international trade disruption as a result of the COVID-19. India was not sending us rice. China was not sending us rice. Pakistan was not sending us rice. So there was rice shortage in the country. There is food shortage now in Southeast. So why are we not thinking later? Why are we not developing frameworks and doable plans to uplift our agriculture sector up? Because when we do that, we create more jobs. We put the young people back to work. We increase government's revenue. We guarantee food security. We limit import of our staple food and other food products. So agriculture does a lot of things. For example, we are not adding value to raw material. Why are we still exporting rubber, Nathan? Why are we still exporting rubber? Why are we not exporting rubber tires? Why are we not exporting rubber buckets? Why are we not exporting rubber slippers? Why are we still exporting cocoa, Nathan? Why are we still exporting cocoa and then we are importing coffee and chocolate?
You don't have factories. You don't have capacity. People with capacity, you don't have it.
But this is where vision comes in, Nathan. This is where vision comes in. So we export our cocoa, we export our coffee, then we go to those people who we export our coffee and cocoa to at a very low price. We begin to buy chocolate, we begin to buy coffee from them for a very high price. Does that make sense to anybody? We export our rubber, we begin to buy rubber tires at an expensive price. Look at oil, for example. Why are we exporting our palm? Why can we add value to the palm and begin to produce grease, begin to produce cream, begin to produce other products from palm?
There is a factory
or manufacture other products from palm.
There is a factory currently under renovation in Maryland County. Maybe trying to add value to our product, our oil, our palm.
Now you come again later. I didn't get you clear.
There is a factory under renovation or construction in Maryland County, carried out by Sifka, and trying to add value to our palm for people to produce another thing there. So it's probably it's part of government plan, working with different companies. And the issue of the electricity you spoke about in the recast budget, what I'm reading from the draft budget, it said that, hey, the issue of COVID was a major factor. And they said, and I quote, the decrease is largely attributed to a one-off of COVID-19 interventions in the form of utility, which is water and electricity relief for the population. So we see that energy and environmental sector fiscal year 2020-2021 is 12.3 million, representing 2% of the allocation in the 2% of the total appropriation. So there's a 2%. I mean, they say 1,000 mathematics, 2%, 4%, 3%. So that should be applause, Martin. What do you think? Because from your initial stuff, you said budget, according to what you said, are crafted based on projection. So maybe government is not. I say from your initial statement, you said budget are crafted based on projection. So maybe government is not seeing anything forthcoming. So that's how they're projecting.
No, not really. Nathan, not really. The point is, the government has been borrowing a lot, to offset some of these expenditures or expenses. But what those monies have been going to increase the budgetary allotments of Mr. George Weah and his clients. And as we go along, I'm going to be more specific about what they are receiving in the budget as opposed to what public-driven institutions and agencies are receiving. But let me just zero in on this agriculture sector before I talk briefly about the energy sector.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want to be specific. For example, look at the Ministry of Agriculture, NATO. Let's look at the Ministry of Agriculture. The Ministry of Agriculture has
Mr. Kollie, are you?
$139. Hello?
Go ahead. You are somehow sticking. So can you repeat what you are saying? Go ahead. Can you just repeat?
The Ministry of Agriculture has $4,112,839. How can 4.1 million run the entire Ministry of Agriculture? How can I even cover salaries and benefits of those working at the ministry? Least to mention establishing a garden or investing in a farm. It really doesn't make sense. So these people are not even serious. Look at what they're giving. Look at what they're giving the Cooperative Development Agency, $371,101. Look at what they're giving Central Agricultural Research Institute, CARI, an institute that's supposed to do research for the entire sector, the agriculture sector, to tell you new inventions, new discoveries, new proposals, and so forth. They are giving CARI $1,354,028. So the budget of the president is even more than the budget of CARI, the research center that is responsible to do agricultural research. Look at what they are giving Rubber Development Fund Incorporated, a fund intended to invest in the rubber sector so that we attract more foreign currencies to the economy. They are giving the RDFR $107,440. and the budget of the first lady is 700,000. 700,000. I'm telling you. Look at what they're giving Liberia Agricultural Commodity Regulatory Authority, $480,007. So if you look at what they are giving the entire sector, NATO, it's just a drop in the ocean. It doesn't solve any problem. In fact, it adds the problem up because they cannot even pay civil servants working in the area of agriculture. So the government is operating on deficit. The government is running a deficit budget in actuality. This cannot be a balanced budget. This cannot be a balanced budget. This can be. Because the point is, all through last fiscal year, for the 4 different quarters, the budget underperformed. We could not raise more than 100 million, 70 million, at a certain point in time, 150 million we could not raise. At a certain point in time, we could not raise 200 and some more million, So it will interest you to know that this year, the deficit might even be wider. Like 2018 under Mr. Weah, for the very first time. For the very first time, we had a shortfall of 254 million since 1847, the largest budgetary shortfall ever in the history of Liberia. 254 million. So the government is not thinking about plans, strategies to create wealth, to generate income, or to generate revenue. All they want to do to borrow, to consume, borrow and consume, and not borrow to even invest. They are not investing. They are not investing. So how do they create wealth? How do they create jobs? How do they generate income when you are not investing? You are just borrowing money from international firms or local creditors just to consume, to pay civil servants and keep your government afloat. So how does that kind of government survive? Look at the number of people that are losing their jobs currently at various concession companies because nothing is working. The economy is not working. Investment has declined. And when investment shifts downward, unemployment shifts upward. Because without investment, there can be no employment. Without investment, there can be no income. Without investment, there can be no household income. Without investment, there can be no revenue for government. Because you need investments or investment companies to be operating before government can receive taxes. Government depends on taxes. Over 70% of our domestic revenue come from taxes. So we have to be clear what we want, NATO. You can be increasing the budget of the office of the president, the budget of the office of the first lady, the budget of Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs, the budget of Ministry of Finance. What is the Ministry of Finance doing for the Ministry of Finance to be receiving 90.2 million, NATO? 90.2 million. And you're giving the entire agriculture sector 6.4 million. You're giving the energy and environmental sector 12.2 million. Does that make sense? How can 12.2 million, for example, Nathan, how can 12.2 million provide electricity for a population of 5 million people? Look at what they did to LEC, Liberia Electricity Corporation. Let's go to LEC, for example. I was just telling you about the need for us to industrialize our economy. And this is the driving force for industrialization, electricity, energy. And only 2% of our people in rural Liberia have access to energy. Imagine that. 2% of rural dwellers are in various counties, the other 14 counties, only 2% of them can boast of electricity, access to current. Look at what they did to LEC. Look at what they did to LEC, Liberia Electricity Corporation. They cut the budget of the Liberia Electricity Corporation from 7.5 million to 4.6 million. Already, LEC was unable to provide electricity last fiscal year for even residents in Moserado County. They still did not consider the challenges the entity faced last fiscal year. They came and cut the entity's budget from 7,550,000 to 4,600,000. People who are monitoring this podcast that are living in Monrovia, they know they could not even get current for months sometimes because LEC did not have the capacity to produce and distribute current to those households or communities as a result of funding constraint. And we are back there again. So this fiscal year, Liberians need to brace themselves for the worst due to irrational budgeting on the part of Samuel Twe and the government as a whole.
And interestingly, Martin, I just came across the budget of the Liberia Broadcasting System. I worked there before. We had a lot of budget constraints. We cannot provide information to the public. It's meager. It's not even $1 million. I'm seeing the Monrovia City Corporation has a budget of over $3,743 for 144. I mean, over $3 million budget at the Monrovia City Corporation. And I see most of consultancy. I see allowances or chip off in all major budgeting, the ICT equipment. There are a lot of things in this budget. The National Disaster Relief Agency also budget, they shut down a lot of stuff into it. So I think probably government is recording Liberia digging hole, cover hole. So let's go into the health sector, Martin. What's your own view of the health sector budget in Liberia? Because we have a lot of people dying. People are also all of the country. Our current our vice president is all of Liberia. We saw Representative Nangwe Slow was treated at JFK and he died. We also saw Muna Pena got to fly out of Liberia. We saw people left when India, all of people who died. We saw people traveling. We are still seeing people traveling out of Liberia. The health sector is in the dilapidated condition. What's there for our health sector?
People shouldn't hope any better anymore because the government of President Weah has cut the budget of the health sector substantively too. Last fiscal year, even when the budget was at $86,956,420, our people were dying. This fiscal year, the government of President Weah has cut that amount from 86.9 million to 66.9 million. Can you imagine? When you had 86.9 million, people were dying. Government officials could not even seek healthcare attention in country. They had to fly out last fiscal year. Then this fiscal year, you cut the budget to $66,922,369. This is unfortunate, Neto. Just to tell you, these people don't care about the interests of the common people because they know the common people will go to JFK. They know the common people will go to Tapeta Hospital. They know the common people will go to Phoebe. They know the common people will go to JS Grant. They know the common people will go to the government hospital in Buchanan. They know the common people will go to the public hospital in Habel. in Harper and other cities. So they cut down the budgetary allotments of these public health facilities without understanding the consequences, the repercussions this will have, or probably pretending to not be understanding. This decision to cut the budget of the health sector will kill a lot of people is on the increase. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Martin. You're coming distorted. Go ahead.
Infant mortality rate is on the increase. Maternal mortality rate is on the increase. We cannot meet the health needs of our population. And this is a cause for national concern, Nathan. Look at what happened to our vice president, for example. It doesn't make sense to me, Nathan. Look at what happened to even our past president, Todman. Todman died in exile due to a poor health system. He was running away from his own health system and he died in exile. A lot of our officials, not even only under this government, a lot of our past officials have died in exile whilst seeking medication. Why can't they invest in JFK instead of running to Ghana? Ghanaians used to come to Liberia to seek health care, but now we are going to Ghana to seek health to seek health care. So the millions of dollars our public officials are spending in the healthcare system of Ghana, because when you go to Ghana, you're spending millions in their health sector and not yours. So you leave your health sector and take millions from the country to go and spend in another person's health sector. It doesn't make sense, Neto. What will it take to improve JFK? What will it take to improve Jackson F. Doe Hospital in Tapeta, Nima County? These are our two largest referral hospitals. Why can't we improve these hospitals that will cater for the needs of even government officials as well as ordinary citizens? Why a few group of people calling themselves public officials are spending millions of dollars from our public resources just to seek foreign medication or foreign attention? This is really sad. So look at the data of the health sector. Ministry of Health, they cut the Ministry of Health budget from 71.3 million to 50.1 million. JFK budget is around 6.1 million. Phoebe Hospital has 1.7 million. Liberia Bowl for nursing and midwifery, $169,883. Can you imagine? Liberia Pharmacy Bowl, $147,471. Liberia Medical and Dental Council, $201,235. Liberia College of Physicians and Surgeons, you have $1,470,590. Liberia Medical and Health Products Regulatory Authority, $1,220,632. You have the National AIDS Commission, $569,204. You have Jackson F. Doe Hospital, $2,499,118. You have National Public Health Institute of Liberia, $2,673,206. So the total they are spending in the health sector, NATO, $66,922,369 from $86,956,420 last fiscal year, 2019-2020, because we are in 2020-2021 FY. So I am saying, Nathan, to you, I am saying a healthy nation is a better nation. If we cannot ensure access to better health care, if our people cannot have faith in JFK that when they go there, they will get better, or they will get cured, or they will have drugs, or they will meet professional medical doctors to cater for their medical needs, if they cannot have confidence in the health sector as a result of the refusal of the government to increase the budgetary appropriation or allotment of the health sector, I can tell you for a fact, this has a negative impact on economic growth and development. Because if the people are not healthy, productivity level declines. Productivity level declines if the people are not healthy. If you do not have a healthy workforce, what can you produce? So we need to focus on health, education. These are strategic sectors that the government must consider, especially whenever it has an opportunity to craft the national budget. This is the national cake of the country. The equitable distribution of this national cake is of national concern and importance. So you cannot just put just anything in the health sector, in the area of health, in the area of education, and you just say, oh, you have crafted a budget. No. This budget cannot be pro-poor. I disagree with the minister. Every day he says, this is a pro-poor budget. How can this budget be pro-poor when the interests of the masses are not at the center of this national financial plan or the national financial instrument? So it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me at all. If we cannot protect the interest of those who elected us to protect their interest, all we are concerned about increasing the budgetary allotments of our offices as governors and not increasing the budgetary appropriations or allotments of those institutions that protect public interest, then who are we? Who are we? We are a bunch of thieves.
Let me just add. I've been reading when you were giving the highlights of this thing, and I'm seeing it's like this budget is more of interest, because I'm looking at the health sector budget of Bond County in the allocation for Bond County, the entire county, because it said county, the code, and the county fiscal year 19 and 20 and 2021 the projection. Bond County is having $1,499,000 plus dollars in that Bond County. Now, if you look at Montserrat and Bond County, the only projection is $1,436,000. So if you look at it critically, the projection per county for Bond and Montserrat, where the the president comes from, the entire county health sector is getting that amount of $1 million. If you look at other sector, county the Bomi is receiving 227,000 projection. And that's the projection. The budget is $175,000. So, and for Montserrat and Bond County, we have 1 million budget, not projection, budget of 1,154,000 plus. So I see some counties like my Gibby County is getting 270,000. That's in the fiscal budget per county. So, and looking at some of these general allowance, everything is slashed off. Basic social salary for civil servants. Is there some of these entities, subsidies for some of the entities like the St. Joseph Catholic Hospital? I'm not seeing no money yet for them. Under the 20 South West African College, I'm just seeing 000. Yahweh Clinic, St. Francis Health Center, Plebo 000. And these are some issues that our lawmakers, what do you think our lawmakers can do? Should they go item by item to look at that budget? Just not seeing it like, I mean, it's based on interest. It's not based on the needs of the people for in the health sector.
But let me just tell you what the lawmakers usually do. When most of these institutions go to defend their budget, they are requesting brown envelopes, they are requesting kickbacks before they can even pass the budget of these institutions. So how can you put the interest of yourselves ahead of the interest of those you are claiming to represent? And this has been an old age problem, Nathan. This has been an old age problem. Those who we call lawmakers do not care about due diligence. No, they do not care about that.
The allegation, Martin, you raising against our law.
I'm telling you, look at how the recast budget was passed. It's not an allegation, it's a fact. Look at how the 2019-2020 recast budget was passed at a 4G speed. Very fast. No public hearing. They did not even consider the budget process, which is provided for by law, because they receive our envelopes. Look at how they approved the stimulus package that has failed today, because they receive brown envelopes. So when these public corporations, agencies, and institutions go to defend their budget, to even provide performance reports, it's something difficult. They don't care. They don't do due diligence. So one of the reasons why a lot of those public health agencies and institutions have 000 is because there's no money. They don't have money. They don't care about reducing their budget to divert to those areas, because they still want to make millions and millions of dollars per annum. During the administration of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, those private health centers or hospitals you are just naming, all of them were receiving subsidies. St. Joseph County Hospital, SD Cooper Hospital, ELW Hospital, those major private health facilities were receiving subsidies to buttress the effort of government facilities, because government facilities cannot cater for the needs of 5 million people. No. So you need to subsidize these private health facilities so that they don't increase the cost of services or the cost of medication on your people, because people who go to those private health facilities are Liberians too. So when the government subsidizes these hospitals, private hospitals, they bring down the cost so that a lot of citizens can be able to afford as well in the private sector as well as the public health sector. But under Mr. Weir, he has erased all of the subsidies that were given to these private health facilities. So you see the challenge right here. And tomorrow, hopefully, I'm going to break on news that what is happening now in the health sector. They are downsizing hundreds and hundreds of health practitioners. They're calling them pensioners. A lot of those people have not even reached the age of retirement. But because they don't have money, they are putting those people down. We're all replacing them. So a lot of those public government facilities, a lot of the power any longer to run them. That is what is happening now. Later, I'm going to provide full detail tomorrow to the Liberian people, because I just got this information. They called the health. So the Ministry of Health does not have any choice but to put a lot of those people down, with all replacing them. So a lot of those facilities in various counties are going to be empty. Nobody to run them, because the government cut the health sector budget from 86.9 million to 66.9 million, which is insensitive and unpatriotic. They cut the budget of the health sector, but they increased the budget of the Ministry of Finance, where Minister Samuel Twe presides. Can you imagine? It doesn't make sense. You increase the budget of the Ministry of Finance from like 87 million to 90.2 million. Then you reduce the budget of the health sector from 86.9 million to 66.9 million. It means you don't care about the livelihood of the people. You don't care about the survival of the people. You don't care about the well-being of the people. And those are the people who elected you to represent their interests, to serve them and not to serve yourselves. Unfortunately, the Weir-led government continues to serve itself. Look at the private properties they are building all around. Where do you think the money coming from? From this very same budget. So they increase their appropriations and allotments at the expense of vast majority of the citizenry. Yet they want us to believe that this is a pro-poor budget. This is not a pro-poor budget, Nathan. This is a pro-rich budget. This is a pro-elite budget. This is a pro-Weir budget. And until we can hold these people responsible to equitably distribute this national cake, Liberia will remain the poorest country for the next 4 or 5 years, until we can have a visionary leadership. Because what do you get from this budget? What do the people get from this budget, Nito? If even their health interest is not protected in this budget. When they are sick, they go abroad. They are not using their own money to go abroad. They are using the country's money. When the people are sick, they go to JFK, where they will have to die from curable diseases because no medicine. And sometimes medical practitioners are not willing to even cater for them because those medical practitioners, some of them have not even taken pay for 3-4 months. It's really sad. This is the government the people elected in 2017. They never knew they were taking a dangerous route. This is where we are, Nathan. This is where we are.
So that's on the health sector. We see that I'm seeing that there's a need people look at the budget, because I've been going through the budget. You will see one entity getting subsidies. You see another that same entity getting transferred. You see that same entity getting grants. But if you look at other entities that are now within influential lawmakers, you see that they would not have, because I read through Bombing County. I saw what's there for CNG and other health facility in Bombing. I read what happened in Bond County. The health support is so huge as compared to what's happening in Grand Gila or Simon or Maryland County. Even in Montserrat, some hospitals don't have subsidies. Some have subsidies, some have grants, some have other things going. So there are so many different forms of money going to one entity in different name. So if you add up, one entity gets more. So we hope that our lawmakers look at that very thoroughly. And again, most of our lawmakers, from my own analysis, even the staff within their offices are not schooled to perusing these documents to be able to guide their bosses, because I know as a lawmaker, you need to advocate, you need to champion your people's plight. So there's a need that our lawmakers look at that, and they should also not only look at their own budget, what's coming to them, but what's going to other people, and compare and know why. So there is a need. Let's go to another sector. Looking at, we finish with education, we finish with health. Let's now go into this issue of the county development fund. What is there for county development fund? Just recently, the Nima County, after 2 or 3 years, held the first gallery to discuss about the county and who held the committee to rule the county, to govern the county development fund. It's called some PMC and stuff like that. So we hope we get your view on that, Martin. And if you're just joining us, we're discussing the draft national budget. And this budget is before the national legislature. And as you see, $535.4 million. That's why it's in that budget. So we have invited Martin Kollie to speak with us, to give our viewers more insight. Like we say, some people they don't have the patience to read what's in there for them. So Martin has been perusing this sector, and he has agreed to come and show and tell us what's there for our people. So we've been seeing a lot of comments. Some people are saying Martin is a bloody liar, and some say you need to appear on other platforms to educate the people. Some of the comments said government inherited this thing from other past government, so it takes time. So let's go into, I'm sure you have come across the county development budget. Let's go into it. Tell us what is there. What is your own reading of the county development budget?
Nathan, thank you. And this issue of county development has a direct impact on our people. So if anywhere should be prioritized in our national budget, it should be about the development of our people, the development of those counties, the development of programs in those counties. So this is something important, and thank God our people back home are listening. They will hear what the CDC-led government has appropriated for their counties, because there are 15 counties in Liberia. So they will hear what the CDC-led government has appropriated for them in the budget as development fund for their counties. So the first thing we need to understand about this county development fund, there are three different layers relative to allotments or appropriations made to the county. three different layers or allotments made to the counties. Number one, you have county development fund. Number two, you have social development fund. And number three, you have county services center fund. So you have the CDF, you have the SDF, and you have the CSCF. So those are the three funds. Those are the three major funds captured in the national budget for each county. And this is in accordance with the 2010 Local Governance Act, which has got to do with decentralization and deconcentration. You know, there were two different platforms launched under the administration of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf: decentralization and deconcentration. And the intent for this was to give power back to the people and also to give resources back to the people in the counties. This is how the county development fund strategy came about. This is how the social development fund came about, as well as the county services center came about. So let's begin with Bombing County. What is in the budget for the development of Bombing County for this fiscal year? For CDF, NATO, Bombing County has $200,000 as county development fund. For social development fund, Bombing County has $0. And for county services center, CSC, Bombing County has $6,250. So the total amount for development in Bombing County for this fiscal year is $206,250. Can you imagine? When they are giving First Lady Clyde, we are $700,000. So the money in the budget for development in Bombing County is far less than what they are giving even Clyde, we are the First Lady. So you see how the people sharing the country's money, how the people sharing the resources of the country. This is not equitability in the context of resource distribution. No. How is it equitable, Nathan, for you as a government or for you as a president to give $206,250 to thousands and thousands of residents in Bombing County as development fund? Then you gave the office of the First Lady Clyde, we are $700,000. It makes sense? Now let me just define county development fund, social development fund, and county service center fund, because a lot of people may not understand. And it is my work to break down these technical terms so they understand very well. For county development fund, when you talk about county development fund, it is the direct, budgetary appropriation from central government to the administration of the county, and that money is intended for development, the implementation of projects as well as programs. When you talk about social development fund, this fund is limited to counties that host concession companies, right? So all the counties that are hosting concession companies should have social development fund per annum. So if your county does not have a concession company, it means you cannot get social development fund. And the last thing is county service center fund. It's intended to run basic governmental services that have been decentralized. For example, national ID card. If I live in Bombing County or Brabolu County or Nima County, I don't need to come to Monroville because we have a mobile office in Bombing that's producing national ID card as well as birth certificate and all of these services, national services. That's county service center fund. So I just thought to define the three so that as we go along, people cannot be confused. Now, let's go to Bond County. We've dealt with Bombing. Let's go to Bond. For CDF, County Development Fund, Bond has $200,000. Can you imagine? How can you give a county $200,000 for development? This is really sad. This is really sad. Then Bond County has for social development fund $1,314,780. The only reason is because you have a few concession companies in Bond, including Asila Mitar. The railway passes through Bond County. So Bond is part of that agreement as well as Grand Basso and Nimba. So Bond has $1,314,780 as social development fund. Bond County also has 6,250 as County Service Center Fund. So the total amount of Bond County for this fiscal year is $1,521,030, 30 United States dollars. Let's go to Bapolu County. Bapolu County has 200,000 as County Development Fund. 200,000 for development in Bapolu. What can 200,000 do, Nathan? The government budgeted 200,000 for all the counties, 200,000 for Monserrato, including 200,000 cannot even give you a mile of road. 200,000 cannot build a good elementary school for you. I'm telling you. What can 200,000 do when the budget of the president's security guards 7.1 million? Do we need 7.1 million to provide security for President Weah? What is this, Nathan? The president claims to be a pro-poor president. He claims to be a popular president. Do we need 7 million to provide security for him in 12 months? Do we need 7.6 million for NSA when Liberia is now a target of terrorists? Let's be fair here, Nathan. The only reason why they gave 7.6 million to NSA is because, according to the 2011 National Security Reform and Intelligence Act, you cannot audit NSA because it is an intelligence agency. It gathers intelligence, it collects intelligence. So you cannot audit the agency. That's why President Weah has sent millions and millions of dollars through the NSA so that they go to the NSA and withdraw those money illegally. That's how they are stealing from the country. No serious government will give NSA 7.6 million. No serious government will give the EPS, Executive Protection Services, EPS that provides security for the president and family, 7.1 million, when the agriculture sector does not even have 7 million. The entire sector. No serious government will do that. When each county is getting 200,000 for development, what can 200,000 do? 200,000 cannot even pay the administrative staff of those counties. You know, so it's really pathetic. Let's go forward. So let's go to Grand Bassa. So the people in Bapolu County have $206,250 for this fiscal year for development. Can you imagine? And there are concession companies in Bapolu, Nato, but they are giving Bapolu zero for social development fund. And I call on our people in those counties that are getting zero for social development funds, even though they have concession companies, to stand up and demand their entitlements. In accordance with the Local Governance Act of 2010, they should have social development fund in as much they have concession companies in their counties. It is important for them to know all these things. That's why we are exposing everything to them. Let's go to Grand Bassa County. Grand Bassa County. County Development Fund, 200,000. Right? Social Development Fund, $2,552,220. County Service Center Fund, $6,250. Look at the County Service Center Fund, in fact, $6,250. You can even afford to support one of these county service centers. I'm telling you, Nato, you see how the people joking with governance and the improvement of the lives of our people?
Just equipment alone.
I'm telling you, just transportation alone. How can you give each county $6,250 for county service center fund? You see how the people joking with development in the various counties? The people think that the entire Liberia is just Monserrato or Monrovia. So they don't care about the other 14 counties. What happens there? What doesn't happen there? They don't really care. Look at the money they give in those counties. Most of these counties have no social development fund, even though they are hosting concession companies. So where is this money going, Mr. Twe? And these people need to stand up. It is their right. And we can give them all of the legal guardians and the conscious approach to use and demand their entitlements. Otherwise, those companies must not operate in their counties if they are not receiving social development fund. The thing is provided by law, but why are you depriving the people of their entitlements? Let's go forward. Let's go to Grand Bassa County. 200,000 County Development Fund. Social Development Fund, $2,552,220. County Service Center Fund, $6,250. So the total amount for Grand Bassa for development this fiscal year is $2,758,470. Let's go to Grand Cayman County. And I hope our people from the counties are listening to what President Weah gave them, a drop in the ocean. And these are the people who voted for him. You know, these are the people who voted for him, Nathan. Let's go to Grand Cayman County. Grand Cayman County has $200,000 as county development fund. Social development fund, 0. Even though we have concession companies in Grand Cayman. County service fund, $6,250. So the total Grand Cayman County has is $206,250. Grand Jida County, $200,000 for development. County development fund. Social development fund, Grand Jida County, 0. County service center fund, $6,250. So the total Grand Jida has for this fiscal year is $206,250. Let's go to Grand Crew. Grand Crew County, where President Weah comes from. They allotted $200,000 for development. And most of these counties are very underdeveloped. The people there are very poor. What can $200,000 do? One mile road costs $1 million. As an engineer, they know just to build a 1 mile road, it costs $1 million United States dollars. So what can $200,000 do relative to development in each of those counties? So Grand Crew County, $200,000 for development, county development fund. Social development fund, 0. And are you aware there are concession companies in Grand Crew? Golden Verona is operating in Grand Crew. As I speak to you, they are involved with palm production. There are other companies exploring the resources of Grand Crew County and other southeastern counties. But these counties are receiving 0.0000 for social development fund. Why? The government cannot answer. That money is going in the pocket of Toy. That money is going in the pocket of Nathaniel McGill. That money is going in the pocket of President Weah and his confidants. Whilst they deprive our people who are the owners of those resources that are being extracted from our country by those foreign companies. When we talk about these things, they say we hate the government. You know, so it makes no sense. You know, so let's go to Lofa County, $200,000 county development fund. Social development fund, 0. County service center fund, $6,250. So the total amount Lofa is getting for this fiscal year is $206,250. Margibi County, $200,000 United States dollars county development fund. $26,251 social development fund, and you have $6,250 as county service center fund. So the total amount Margibi has in the budget, in the draft national budget, is $232,501. Can you imagine? Let's go to Maryland. Maryland County, $200,000 as county development fund. Social development fund, 0. County service center fund, $6,250. So the total Maryland has is $206,250. Moserado County, the most populated county, President Weah allotted $200,000 for development. Then social development fund, 0. Do you know how many concession companies in Moserado? But they put 0 there for Moserado. Then county service center fund, $6,250. How can you give $6,250 to Moserado County as county service fund? You know, so Moserado has a total of $206,250. Let's go to Nima. Nima County, county development fund, $200,000. Social development fund, Nima has the highest, $3,867,000. And county service center fund, $6,250. So Nima has $4,073,250 United States dollars per annum. So let's go to Riverset. Riverset has $200,000 as county development fund, $0 as social development fund. CSC, which is county service center fund, $6,250. So Riverset has a total of $206,250 United States dollars. River G, $200,000 county development fund, $0 Social Development Fund, $6,250 for CSC Fund. So River G has $206,250. Let's go to the last but not the least, Sino County, $200,000 County Development Fund, Social Development Fund 0, County Service Center Fund $6,250. So the total of Sino County, $206,250. Even though Sino County and other counties with 0000 for Social Development Fund, these areas or these regions have concession companies. So why are they depriving these people of their entitlements, which is provided by law under the 2010 Local Governance Act? So you see how corrupt the government is? To understand, they want to even deceive the people of the very entitlements that belong to them. So I just want to call on the government to give those people their just entitlements. They deserve it. They must have it, because there are concession companies in their counties that are extracting their resources on a daily basis. So those concession companies must give them what they deserve. And the concession companies are giving them what they deserve, but the government is not giving them what they deserve in the budget. You have 0000 for most counties, except 4 counties that are receiving Social Development Fund: Nima, Bon, Grand Bassa, and Magibi. All the other counties are not receiving Social Development Fund, even though there are concession companies in those other counties. This is unfair, Mr. Weir. So the total they are spending, or the total that has been budgeted in the draft national budget for this fiscal year, $3 million. $3 million has been budgeted as county development fund. What can $3 million do for 15 counties, Nato? What can $3 million do? In the budget of the Office of the President, Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs, 103 lawmakers sitting somewhere. They don't go to work every day. They only go to work Tuesdays and Thursdays, meaning they only go to sessions. They are having over 33 million. Then you're giving 15 counties. And in those counties, you have group thousands, millions of people who voted for you. You're giving those 15 counties for development 3 million. Are these people really serious about governance and leadership? Leadership is not just about going and seeking your own interests. It's about protecting public interest.
For our viewers, the chart you see on the screen is where Martin Kollie is reading from, so you can see it for yourself. And if you go down to the budget, page from 11, 12, 13, that's what Martin is reading from. So for those of you who want to access the budget, you can just go there and you see these things that he's reading. And as he's reading, I myself too, I'm going through them to verify some of his statement, and I'm saying these things. So it's not like I'm just allowing him to talk. The essence of our discussion is for him to speak directly to what's in the budget and not to add nor subtract. So for those of you who have been reading your comments, Martin is just here to provide more insight. That's why you see I'm not talking too much, because everything he's saying, the budget is on the internet. That's why I'm showing you some of these things he's saying. So it is not like the normal politician talk. So we are discussing the national budget. What is inside? You've been listening to Martin K. and Kollie, a student advocate, a major critic of the George Weah government. He's currently in exile, and I've been seeing some of the comments here on Martin. Some people say Martin just criticized, and some people also said there are a whole lot of allegations here. Other people are lashing at each other, but that's the debate. We are in we are in a more civilized society. We encourage your view. We cannot suppress your view. If you think you want to come and throw more highlights, we've been trying to talk to people from the financial sector to come and discuss and explain to us. But most of these people, when you call them, I will get you. Before you look last minute of the time, they turn you down. So we need them to come to KMTV to explain, because we don't want to only bring members from the opposition. They crafted the budget. Let them come and explain. We've been knocking doors, calling phones, send Facebook. We need you guys from the government side. Come to KMTV. We'll give you the platform to explain. If Martin is not telling the people the truth, come and explain the truth to the people in Liberia. So this is an open invitation from the finance ministry, from the sector. If you know the budget and you want to provide more information. Come, let's discuss. Maybe you want to say, okay, I want to tackle the health sector. I want to tell the people what's in the health sector. Come, ask for KMTV. Send us Facebook or messages, KMTV Liberia, or you send a live invitation on this broadcast. We will be able to invite you to come and explain. Maybe just one sector. You say, okay, I want to discuss one sector. So that's the program. Let's go back to Martin as he continues on this C County Development Fund. Go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, so basically, Nathan, when you look at what we have in the budget for all of the counties as county development fund, it's really discouraging. This 3 million cannot even begin a technical college or a vocational institution. You know, you need more money. You need more money for these counties, because at the end of the day, what is the government investing in? What is the government developing? The government came to develop lives, to empower people, to improve infrastructure, to invest in health, energy, tourism, for example. What is the government doing? All of these sectors are virgin. For example, tourism. There is a huge potential in the tourism sector. We could raise billions of dollars from tourism, because we have a lot of tourist sites. We have a lot of pristine beaches. We have oceans. We have swamps. We have lakes. We have islands. We have historical sites, traditional sites. So why are we not maximizing our tourism potential that could generate millions and billions of dollars to help our government implement its programs and projects? If we decide to invest in tourism, we could just forget about borrowing from the IMF and the World Bank, because we keep borrowing. And currently we are at an unsustainable level relative to debt unsustainability. There where Liberia is, we are unable to pay or service our debts. But we keep borrowing. President Weah keeps borrowing. So he's putting the next government into trouble. Let's maximize our resource potential and stop borrowing. Limit borrowing, Mr. Weah. The government needs to limit borrowing. Stop borrowing, whether it's from domestic creditors or external creditors. Stop borrowing at that level. It's not bad to borrow, but the extent at which we've reached is really dangerous. I was discussing the debt stock of Liberia the other day. We are almost at 1.5 billion. And our budget is not even 1 billion. Our budget is still around 535 million, little over half a billion. So how can you be borrowing up to almost 1.5 billion when your budget is far below 1.5 billion? When your GDP is around 3 billion. You know, so it makes no sense. Let's maximize what we have in the country. We have land. We have land, arable land. Like I said, instead of us spending a lot of money to import our staple food, why we can begin to grow rice and stop sending 400 million abroad every year to import our staple food to the country. We begin to produce our own food and even begin to produce surpluses. There will be savings. There will be returns. And we could use those now for development in the country and stop borrowing only to consume and not to invest, which is very dangerous for our economy. It takes you nowhere when you only borrow to consume and not to invest. Look at the community rules, President, we are building. What can those community rules do? What are the returns on those substandard community rules? Those community rules are substandard rules. You know, so it is important for Mr. Weah to put more money in the budget for these various counties and not this kind of money he put in the budget. So for social development fund, we have $7,760,251 for all the 15 counties. All the 15 counties. Then for the county service center fund, we have $93,750. Now, look at what they gave the county, Nato. Let's compare with what they gave the county to what they gave themselves. Let's compare. Let's do a comparative analysis so the people get to know what they are getting and what the people they elected are getting.
And I do a couple of projects, and I was working on a project, and when I did a budget, before you calm down, just want to show highlight. And the guy who was advising me on the project, he said, "Look, you cannot put more of the money on yourself to say office staff, payment of your salary, but the donors want to see how much of that money you're pumping into the project." And that was eye opening for me because I was projecting, okay, I need this, I need that, and portion of the money, huge portion of the money was coming to him on salaries and the services and stuff. But he told me, no, that's not how you do a project. They want to see the impact. It's not about you because you are a servant. So let's go to your point. Let's go into what's in that budget for our lawmakers, the president office, his quote unquote senior staff within the cabinet. What's there for them? Can you throw some light on that? It's
yeah. You raised.
Why is that?
Nathan, you
government pro-poor. That's the jargon.
But how can this budget be pro-poor, Nathan?
That's why
nobody you tell that thing to, and they agree with you. No, this budget cannot be pro-poor, Nathan. This is a pro-elite budget or a pro-rich budget. This is not a pro-poor budget. No. How can this be a pro-poor budget? You're cutting down on health. You're cutting down on basic areas in the agriculture sector. You're cutting down on education. This cannot be a pro-poor budget. No, it can't. So before we even go to what they have, you raise an important point, because when donors give an organization money, what is required is what impact can that money make on the beneficiaries, right? And not those of you who are implementing the project. They pay less attention to implementers of the project. They pay more attention to beneficiaries of. At the end of the day, what is considered is the impact. So if you look at the budget, let me inform the Liberian people that 89.7% of our overall budget accounts for recurring expenditure, which is 480.3 million out of 535.5 million. So the ceiling of our budget is 535.5 million. Out of this amount, out of the total amount, 480.3 million goes toward recurrent costs or recurrent expenditure, which accounts for 89.7%. This means the money we are spending on the payment of salaries, allowances, benefits, the purchase of fuel, maintenance of vehicle, rental and lease, that's recurrent costs. We are spending almost the entire budget on recurrent costs. So what goes to capital costs, which has a direct impact on the lives of the ordinary people? What goes to building schools? What goes to building roads? What goes to building hospitals? What goes to creating jobs? What goes to investing in private sector? So
it appears like we're trying to lose Martin K and Kollie. He's our guest on this platform. Go ahead, Martin. You are coming in broken. Mr. Kollie, are you getting me?
are you getting me?
Go ahead, continue.
So I'm saying, how can you take 89.7% of the overall budget and just give the people 10.3%? You're taking 480.3 million of the national budget, which is 535.5 million, and you're giving the people 55.2 million, which accounts for 10.3%. Yeah, right. Country's recurrent expenditure is even up to 89 million. I mean 89%. No country recurrent expenditure is even up to 89%. But Liberia's recurrent expenditure is 89.7%. Almost 90% of the money in our budget goes to war, just paying salaries. Their salaries, their astronomical salaries, and as well their benefits, buying flashy cars for them, fueling those cars, buying scratch cards, just about them and not about the people. That's why they put 55.2 million in the budget for the people. So it doesn't make sense. Now, let's go to what they get to be specific. I want to begin with the president. And I'm going to deal with a few major lines in his budget. For example, on page 13, the president has something called on his budget special presidential project. The president gets 500,000 just for project. Just for project. When a county cannot get 200,000 for development, the president is getting 500,000 United States dollars for his project. It's all about him. It's all about him, NATO. Let's go to travel expenses for the president, the overall. On page 13, when you calculate it, the president has a total of $542,875. That's what we're spending for the president to travel in country, and those few trips he makes out of the country. For this year, we'll be spending $542,875. Can you imagine? When we are spending 200,000 for development in each of those counties. I'm just reading a few lines in the president's budget so our people can listen and tell me whether this president is a pro-poor president or a pro-rich president, or tell me whether this budget is pro-poor or this budget is pro-rich. Let's go to repair and fuel. Repair, maintenance, and fuel. What are we spending for the president? Page 13. 460,000 we are spending. I'm still on. Look at the lines under the budget of the president, Nathan. It's mind-boggling. It's scary. It's really scary. Then under his budget, he got humanitarian outreach. This one is for the first lady. Humanitarian outreach for the first lady, page 11. 700,000. Then let's come to the speaker and the Senate pro tem. It's just about them, Nathan. It's just about them and not about the people. Who told you it's about the people? Let's come to Speaker Buffer Chambers, page 3 of the budget. Speaker Buffer Chambers has Speaker Buffer Chambers has a budget of $646,303. Senator Albert Chia, the Senate pro tem, page 3. His office has a budget of $595,854. So they have more than half a million, but the counties that elected them cannot have even 300,000 for development. Are these people pro-poor leaders or pro-poor looters? In my opinion, the latter will suffice. Because nothing in this budget is a reflection of any pro-poor government or any pro-poor agenda. No. Now, let me just read some more what they are giving the masses. But let me end on this. Like I continue, the office of the president, Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs. Overall, they have 10.8 million. The presidential guards, EPS, 7.1 million. The legislature, 103 lawmakers, sitting somewhere and receiving brown envelopes and bribes, at the same time compromising the interests of the people by signing Booker's concession agreements. 103 lawmakers, their offices are receiving 33.4 million. The office of the vice president, 2.2 million. The National Security Agency, NSA, is receiving 7.8 million. are even underestimated from the initial conversation. You know. Yeah, so Ministry of Finance, 90.2 million. Now, after dealing with some of them, because we can deal with all, let's come to what the masses get directly now, leaving the counties. Let's come to on each ministry what the masses have. For example, under the Ministry of Gender, there are a few lines I want to highlight. Number one, the National Youth Rehabilitation Center. Imagine youth rehabilitation center that should help our Zogos or youth arrests or those child soldiers who are on the street. They're giving the National Youth Rehabilitation Center 1,000 USD. Something you can even afford, Nathan. You think you people serious?
Well, how do you know I can afford?
Because I know your capacity, Nathan. Okay, something that I can even afford. Youth rehabilitation center, a center that should rehabilitate the youth and even reintegrate them into society. They're giving that entity 1,000 United States dollars under the budget of the Ministry of Gender. Then the Albino Society. The Albino Society, there are thousands of them in Liberia. The Albino, they're giving albinos 71,000. What can 71,000 do for albinos? And these are the people who voted for them. They're giving persons with disabilities under the National Commission of Persons with Disabilities $1,098. Can you imagine? Liberia is really finished. I'm telling you, serious thing. $169,883. You know, then they're giving the National Food Assistance Agency $124,545. What can this do in the midst of food insecurity, food shortage? What can $124,545 do for the National Food Assistance Agency? Let's go to the National Commission on Higher Education, $226,528. Let's go to water and sanitation. What are they expected to spend in this area? Water and sanitation, $642,045. Look at that kind of thing. And only 15% of the population has access to water or safe drinking water, NATO, according to the 2020 Water Aid International report. Go on their website. Water and sanitation, the government has allotted $642,045 in the midst of a very Hello?
Go ahead, Mr. Kollie. Go ahead.
Yeah, so to tell you that the government is not even serious about the basic needs of the people, which is pathetic. How can you give water and sanitation sector $642,045 when you have 3.9 million of the Liberian people without toilet? They are involved with open defecation, according to the 2020 Water Aid International report. 15% of the population have access to clean or safe drinking water. You know, renewable energy, rural renewable energy agency, they allotted $278,272. When only 2% of the rural population has access to electricity, you think the people serious, Nato? What can this amount do? This amount cannot even give you a few, solar panels. So it's really sad. So $147,171. The social welfare program of the country, $774,063. Look at the amount they are giving to public interest entities that should protect the welfare, well-being, security, safety of the Liberian people. Look at the money they are giving these entities and compare it with what they have for themselves in the national budget. It's really sad, Neto. And our people need to stand up and demand more, because the
This is KMTV, and it appears that our guest Martin K. Kollie is having some difficulties with the internet as we are broadcasting live on this platform through the means of internet. So we are discussing the draft national budget, what is in it for you. Okay, Martin is back again. Sorry for that interruption. Martin, continue. Martin Carly, are you getting me? You can continue discussing the budget. What's there for the ordinary Liberian? It appears that our guest Martin K. and Carly is trying to reconnect, but this is KMTV. We are looking at the draft national budget. What is in it for you? What the government projected in that budget to help ease the situation in Liberia, the health sector, the agriculture sector, the energy sector, and what's there for the ordinary Liberians, the County Development Fund. So Martin K. and Kollie has been providing us some highlights of the budget. He gave you what's there for education. If you look at what's there for agriculture, what's in that budget for the office of the president, that's where we stop until the internet. We're still trying to connect with Martin. We have some other topics to discuss, but for today's edition of the budget, the draft national budget that is before the national legislature, we are looking at the health sector, we are looking at the agriculture sector. We are looking at the energy sector. And Martin been providing you what's there. Looking at health, health has a US 66.9 million. That represents 12.5%. Why? Education represents 9.7%, 77 million in that budget for education. So as we try to reconnect with our guest Martin K. and Kollie to provide you more highlights on the budget, I will just give you some synopsis from what I'm seeing. Security and rule of law. Security and rule of law. What I'm seeing here, okay, I think Martin is back. To continue this discussion, let's try to reconnect with him. Go ahead, Martin. I'm sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, sorry, the network is somehow creating problem for the conversation. But like I was saying, I have talked about more than 12 different public-driven entities and areas of interest. And it will interest you to know that the government of President Weah did not put anything substantive in the individual budget of these entities. So what do the people have to show for electing his government, for electing him as president of the country, when the future of their kids is not reflected in this budget, when their future is not reflected in this budget, when their interest is not protected in this budget? So I disagree with them. I disagree with the Minister of Finance, who said this is a proper budget. This is not a proper budget. A proper budget does not resemble what is in front of us as 2021 draft budget. No. So I was talking about the National Disaster Management Agency, for example. What can 1.1 million do to respond, contain disasters in Liberia? 1.1 million is not even adequate to respond to fire disaster before I talk about other disasters. So these people are so insensitive. Or you give the legislature 33.4 million. Then you give the National Disaster Management Agency 1.1 million. And they have to respond to disaster in Maserati. They have to respond to disaster in Bon. They have to respond to disaster in Magibi, Nimba, Grand Jida, and all the other counties. So the reason why a lot of our people are entrapped in most of these disasters is because of the unwillingness of the government to invest more in the National Disaster Management Program or agency of the country. it's really sad. So we will be saving more lives from disaster if we increase the budgetary allotment or appropriation of the National Disaster Management Agency. It will interest you to know that the National Disaster Management Agency only has a functional office in Monrovia, not even in the entire Monserrado, Monrovia. So you don't have an office in Bomi, you don't have an office in Bon, you don't have an office in other counties. This is disgraceful, Nathan.
That has been a old age thing, because I remember when I was in Liberia, I covered the internal affairs. We used to go to Grand Cayman when there was a sea erosion. We went to Nima County, went to other areas, even in West Point, Nuku Town. So, I mean, so do we want change to happen within this government? Because they have been underfunded. They have been crying for so long. They only depend on good gesture from you listen to Akara's Grave when fire disaster, he building some people's house. You listen at what he needs, Solomon George, he's helping these other people. You listen at Darius DeLong, he's building. So when disaster happen, like we in the media, the people always run to us. So their concern can be aired, so politicians can come in. So maybe that's some way of supporting. Government can go alone.
Later, I tend to disagree when you talk about they are being underfunded or they are dependent on gesture. No, you cannot be underfunded or dependent on gesture when you are breaking down your properties and building new ones. Are you not seeing for yourself, Nathan, that they are building private properties? Are you not seeing the cars they are riding?
Oh, you mean government officials or private citizens or politicians?
I'm talking about officials of government. They are complaining about no money
but they
to respond to disaster.
They are being paid for the work to do.
Sea erosion affecting thousands of our people along the coastline or along the coastal belt. They say no money to build a coastal defense system. As a result, a lot of properties are being carried away. A lot of lives are being destroyed. So my point is, they every day no money, but they're increasing the budgetary allotments of their offices. So the no money only applies to the people. When it comes to the interest of the people, then no money. When it comes to building a coastal defense system, no money. When it comes to investing in education, no money. When it comes to providing more budgetary support to JFK and other health facilities, no money. But when it comes to building the properties of Mr. Weah, money is available, right? When it comes to buying more,
the government funding that Weah is building his property.
But why do you think he built it for? Data? Why he didn't build why he didn't build those duplexes when he was senator or when he was never an elected official? When Mr. Weah declared his assets in 2014, the total net worth of his asset was 2.2 million. Not monetary value, but just his assets, his houses and other properties valued at 2.2 million. He didn't even have physical cash. He was never liquidated before becoming senator in 2014. People like Edwin Stone and others had to help him even with campaign money. So in less than 8 months, where did he take money from to build over 40 condominiums, duplexes? Where did he take money from to build?
We spoke with Deputy Press Secretary Smith Toby. He said, I mean, we have been a millionaire from, I mean, he been having properties and wealth. He bought that property when he was in his youthful days playing soccer. So it's not a strange thing, according to Smith Toby, Deputy Press Secretary. So we have been a millionaire before, you know that.
No, I don't know. I don't know really, Nato, except the facts are adduced to prove. Somebody wrote something on Wikipedia saying we have 87 million. When even the richest African player of all time does not have 87 million. Those are the lies people attach themselves to. And this is my problem with the CDC-led government and seditionists. They lie a lot. They lie a lot. Where did we have 87 million at? Where? So when people lie just to justify or prove a point, then, they're going nowhere. Look at the situation with Smith Toby, the 9th Street property. Mr. Weah said on one occasion, the property is for his son. His son said, no, this is not my property. Those are the lies. So who owns the property? The son said, no, it's not my property. Mr. Weah said the property is not for him, it's for his son. So it means the property is not owned by anybody. Later on, he kills the whole property. And you see what is going on at the property. The wife of Mr. Weah is building a complex. Go on my Facebook page. I uploaded those photos. She has received 2.7 million of the Liberian people's money since 2018. She's building a private complex and not a public complex.
She has a program catering to females in Liberia. They call it the Clara Hope something. She's also giving back. She sent a couple of girls to Ghana for training and providing the jobs. That is crucial to Liberia's development.
You see, Nathan, I disagree with people who call the First Lady humanitarian or philanthropist. How can you be a philanthropist on our taxes? No, if you want to be a philanthropist, raise your own money. But we are giving you our taxes and you're using our taxes for private interest. She runs a private foundation called Cloud Hope Foundation. That foundation is not public. It's a private foundation. And she spends tax dollars on her private foundation. That's conflict of interest. And it violates the 2014 Code of Conduct law as well as the 2009 Public Financial Management law. So we need to be careful here how we run government, because the action of Madam Claudia is in violation of a lot of laws. She's running private foundation. You should not be using public resources to run private institutions. No, it's wrong. It's wrong in terms of governance. So Madam Claudia cannot be calling herself philanthropist or a humanitarian when she's not using her own money for those initiatives. And very soon, Nathan, I'm going to call for the audit of the office of the First Lady. I'm doing a formal letter to the General Auditing Commission. She needs to account for every penny we have given her since 2018. Those are our taxes. It's captured in the budget. For the first time, the First Lady is receiving up to 2.7 billion in less than three fiscal years. 36 months. 2.7 million. A First Lady who could not even make up to 20,000 a month when she was running a restaurant in Queensland, New York. She's now leeching on public resources. Who does that?
That's debatable and unbelievable, man. In New York to run a restaurant and you say you can make 20,000 a month.
But the restaurant was dead. The restaurant was dead. The restaurant was dead. When I say she could not make 20,000, the restaurant was virtually dead. It was not even operational. That is the context I'm speaking. No Liberian woman will go to Jamaica or America, right, and get that amount. In fact, since 1847, I just want to begin with First Lady Antoinette Totman. There was no amount, there was no money in the budget for Madam Antoinette Totman. The wife of William Victoria Totman, the wife of William R. Totman. There was no money in our national budget there was no money in our national for Dow Taylor, the wife of Charles Taylor. It is only under the administration of Mr. Weah that he has put in our national budget humanitarian outreach for First Lady. Why? Are we the ones responsible to run the office of the First? The office of the First Lady should generate her own money. That's why almost all the First Ladies are doing around the world. They don't depend on tax dollars to run their programs and initiatives. They host galas, they host programs, they host fundraisers. They think about ideas to create funds. They establish their own farms, their own private initiatives that will bring income. But this other First Lady is completely dependent on taxes. COVID-19 in the country, she left on a charter plane by the American government to America, to New York, and abandoned the Liberian people. Is this the First Lady we want to depend on? Is this the First Lady we're giving 2.7 million to? The First Lady who doesn't care about the people of Liberia? When we were fighting war, what did she donate? She did not donate a single bag of rice to say, oh yes, I'm concerned about the Liberian people because my husband is a Liberian. Let me send one bag of rice. We fought war for 15 years. Never a day did you hear Cloud we are sending a bag of rice.
My husband was a humanitarian. He served as UNICEF Global Ambassador. You and I know that. It's an open secret. And a woman support the husband. So she don't have to come out. But once the husband does that, that will reflect. So let's go into other issues. That's what there for her. And we hope our lawmakers will look at the budget, as you say. the issue of the president, his security, government officials, what Minister Samuel Tua is getting, what the Ministry of Presidential Affairs, Ministry of State is getting. What's there for them? The legislature, what's there? What's there for our lawmakers? What are they putting in the back pockets?
But I already told you, Nathan, 33.4 million. 33.4 million is the annual budget of the legislature, and for the executive protection services, those are the presidential guards. They are getting 7.1 million. The office of the vice president, 2.2 million. Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs, 10.8 million. Humanitarian outreach for First Lady Claudia, 700,000. National Security Agency, NSA, 7.8 million. Ministry of Finance, 19.1 million. Interestingly, Nathan, look at some of the monies they are giving to security apparatuses. How will armed robbery not be on the increase? You think the people serious about our welfare and security and safety and interest? No, they are not. They are not. Look at what they are giving the Ministry of National Defense.
But you seem to be contradicting yourself, because you said National Security Agency receiving a lot of money. They should not receive all this money. Now you're just saying government is not serious on providing security for our people. Where do you stand?
Well, I said National Security Agency, right, and EPS. Those agencies focus on the president and the elites.
Not only the president, the NSA, not only the president.
No, the NSA just to gather intelligence.
Yeah, from around the world. Not just to, from around the world.
That's their core function. But I'm talking about external security and internal security. The AFL is responsible for external security. The Liberia National Police is responsible for internal security. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about EPS. EPS, you're talking about presidential elites. I'm not talking about NSA. You're talking about gathering intelligence. I just told you that Liberia is not the target for terrorists or terrorism. So why are we spending?
That is debatable, Martin. You can't tell, because terrorists use weak area. From my own security training I learned in journalism, you got to be cautious of your surrounding. Yeah. So you don't have to be a threat. Somebody can target you.
So the point I'm making,
tell our viewers what's there for AFL, police, fire service. What's there for them?
Now, let's go to some major areas, so that we have what we have. But I just want to make a point on this issue of terrorism, because it's very important. I told you Liberia is not a focus or a target of terrorism. And for me, when I talk, I like to bring out the facts. I just want to name a few countries that are targets of terrorism. You see Tanzania, it's a target of terrorism. You see Kenya, Somalia, most of those East African countries, including Mali, those are targets for terrorists. And not Liberia. No. So why are we spending 7.8 million on the NSA? It's simply intended for Mr. Weir to go back and withdraw those millions, because we cannot audit the NSA according to the 2011 National Security Reform and Intelligence Act. I know what is going on behind the scene, Nature. This is why I'm exposing a lot of things to our people. I'm opening their eyes. I'm opening their eyes. So let's talk about AFL, LMP, and so forth. When you look in the budget for the National Defense or the Ministry of National Defense, you have $12,856,906. Realistically, we have a force of about 1,800 men, between 1,800 and 2,000 men. plus civilian staff, right? What can 12.8 million do? Like for in 2019, the budget of the AFL was $14,412,445. It is now down to $12,856,906. So what can 12.8 million do for the AFL? Are you aware, as I speak to you, the BN Kesseley barracks on Shuffling Highway, those facilities do not have running water now, electricity, and other facilities, and soldiers are relocating their families. It was just in the newspaper.
Some of it, I know a couple of the buildings there do have running water. So I think some of it, I can see that because I have a couple of studios there.
No, but recently, I'm talking about recent news. Recent news. No water, no electricity. I'm telling you, those AFLs are not even receiving their rights, their ration. I'm telling you, do your investigation. Recent news. Then you're giving the AFL 12.8 million. Look at what you're giving the Liberia National Police. These are interesting times. These are really interesting times. You gave the Ministry of Justice, 32.8 million. They cut the budget of the Ministry of Justice from 34.1 million last fiscal year. Now it is 32.8 million this fiscal year. So they don't even respect the rule of law. They don't even respect justice. All these areas that should actually protect the interests of the poor people. They don't even respect these areas. And which is pathetic.
The entire sector, the security sector and rule of law, according to the document in my possession, says that they are receiving $79.4 million, the entire security and rule of law sector. And that's about 14.8% of the total expenditure, and a 2.7% increase when compared to last year. So there's a 2% increase in the security and rule of law budget. So it means that AFL budget too was increased.
No, but the point is, to what amount? I was just making reference to how it was cut from 2018-2019 fiscal year, because the actual in the budget here is on page 15. You check on page 15, you will see it. In the actual year, if you look at what they were getting in 2018-2019, were $14,412,445. That amount has dropped to $12,856,906 in the midst of challenges, in the midst of gaps. So what covers up for this? That's the point I was making. Ministry of Justice. They say the day increment, but the Ministry of Justice budget has been reduced. So the debt increment to places that did not even have anything, there where they just put small amount to those places and brought down the budgetary allotments of strategic security apparatuses or institutions. And you don't operate like this, especially when there are competing priorities in these strategic apparatuses like AFL, LMP, like the rule of law, justice, human rights, National Commission on Small Arms. That they cut their budget down from $493,438 to $492,155. Go to budget code 209. So my point is, you cannot put the interest of the people at the back and you put your interest at the front. This is the national cake of the country. It should be distributed equitably so that the governed can have a substantive share of the budget, because it is their lives that are being affected. Look at the report of the World Bank. Just this year, 2020, according to the World Bank, 526 Liberians are to fall below the line of poverty. The government doesn't care about this. Thousands of people are losing their jobs. You go to M&G Go, there is a downsizing exercise ongoing. You go to ArcelorMittal, the same. You go to Golden Vereda, the same. All of those information and facts are on my page. It's pathetic, Nathan. Our people are really suffering. I can tell you this by fact. And the government doesn't care. All they care about to focus more money where their interest lies. And this was never the reason why they were elected in 2017. This was never the reason why they were elected in 2017. They were elected to serve and not to steal. What they are doing in this budget is what I describe as white-collar economic sabotage. They pass the money through the budget to steal. So they can say, oh, it's legal, it's in the budget, so I can take it anytime. So I think there is a need for paradigm shift. I think there is a need for a paradigm shift going forward. We need to readjust this budget so it focuses on the interest of the people. The people should be at the center of this budget and not them. A few of them who are political elites, a few of them who have the privilege to sit at Palm Spring and Royal Hotel and other resorts. Let's focus on our people in West Point. Let's focus on our people. Let's focus on our people in Farrakhan.
You say he's at the Palm Spring before Royal Hotel, my man. And let's go to this issue you raised. And on one of your social media posts, you said, "Hey, Samuel Twe lied when he spoke about budget surplus." Can you explain further? What do you mean the minister lied?
You know, Nathan, we have to reach a place where all of us have to be fair to ourselves and those who serve. It's very important. You know, there are different types or kinds of government budget. You have balanced budget, you have deficit budget, and you have surplus budget. Right. For surplus budget, when the revenue collected is more than the revenue spent, right? Then you have surplus budget. But when the revenue collected is less than revenue spent, you have deficit budget. But when the revenue collected is equal to the revenue spent, you have balanced budget. So as per the 2009 Public Financial Management Law, we are always running a balanced budget. By the end of the day, we can end in deficit. The minister lied to the people of Liberia that we had surplus or surpluses for 2019-2020 fiscal year. That was a lie. Instead of surplus or surpluses, what the minister was actually talking about, or what he actually meant, was carry forward. There's a difference between carry forward and budget surplus. Carry forward can be referred to as an unspent money that is carried from the previous fiscal year to the next fiscal year. So there was 10.5 million left from the loan borrowed from IMF. That was what they carried forward to the new fiscal year, 2020-2021. That was what he was calling surplus. Surplus cannot exist when there are liabilities. You haven't paid civil servants. Where's the surplus? You haven't paid your creditors. You are owing people who you borrow money from. Where's the surplus? Are you aware that debt is a liability? So we have a lot of accrued liabilities, and the minister is there talking about surplus, budget surplus. People are protesting for 11-month arrears, and you're talking about budget surplus. You don't even have money to run the government, you're talking about budget surplus. You are still running to the IMF and the World Bank, you're talking about budget surplus. Inflation rate is at 31.3%, you're talking about budget surplus. How can your economy be growing below zero? At negative 5.2%, you're talking about surplus. You cannot even raise your projected revenue from taxes. International partners have to come and assist. So where is the surplus? What happened? And it was reflected in this budget. Checking this budget. NATO, they themselves admitted in this budget. It was carried forward. You will not see surplus. You will see a carry forward of 10.5 million. So he actually lied to the Liberian people. And long since I have already told the Liberian people that he lied. And to further expose his lie, let me deal with the 4 different quarters from last fiscal year so our people get to know how did the budget performed last fiscal year at the various quarters. All of this information are important for public consumption. And this is why I have been called on this platform to explain, break down, and simplify so all of the Liberian people can know where we stand relative to budgeting or government budget. Now, for the first quarter last fiscal year, the government projected 117.3 million. That was the revenue projection for the first quarter. From July to September, the government said we will raise the amount of 117.3 million. Did the government raise that amount later? No. The government could only raise 79.7 million out of 117.3 million. Therefore, they had a deficit of 37.6 million, or a shortfall of 32%. So how is that surplus? That is just quarter 1. Let's go to quarter 2. I don't just like talking, Nathan. I like to provide proofs, and expose the loopholes and the lies of Minister Samuel Twe in this government so that the people get to know what the facts are. Let's go to quarter 2. When I'm done talking about the 4 quarters, you, Nathan, will tell me whether there was actually surplus or not. Because as I said initially, budget surplus is when revenue collected exceeds revenue spent, right? So you will tell me whether we actually had excesses at the end of these 4 quarters of the budget year last fiscal year. Now, quarter 2, the government projected or estimated to raise 111.8 million. Out of this amount, later, the government could only raise 99.2 million. Hence, a deficit of 12.57 million, or a shortfall of 11%. That quarter 2, so quarter 1, 32% shortfall or deficit, 11% shortfall in quarter 2. Let's go to quarter 3. So where's the surplus? And the budget has 4 quarters. And these are the 4 quarters I'm telling you, according to their financial report. It's on their website. So quarter 3, the government planned to raise 150.12 million. Out of this amount, later on, they could only raise 139.42 million. So they had a deficit of 10.70 million, or a shortfall of 7%. Another shortfall again in quarter 3. So all during the budget period or during the budget quarters, you have shortfall. Then at the end of the budget year, you say you get surplus. So who believes that kind of myth? So let's go to quarter 4. Now, quarter 4, the government had already predicted a shortfall of 50%, 32 million shortfall for quarter 4, which is 50%. So from quarter 1 to quarter 4, you have shortfall. Quarter 1, shortfall, 32%. Quarter 2, shortfall, 11%. Quarter 3, shortfall, 7%. Quarter 4, shortfall, 50%. So how is it possible for all of the 4 quarters to end the budget year and you are talking about budget surplus instead of budget deficit or shortfall? So it doesn't make sense. The minister actually lied, and his lie was further challenged by the former minister of finance, Wema Kamara. So it is clear. Look in the budget now they have, the draft budget. It's clear that it was not surplus, it was carried forward. Unspent money is called carry forward. For example, you borrowed $10, and this budget year is almost to an end. You didn't use the $10, you carry to the next fiscal year. That cannot be surplus because you still have liabilities. You still have debts. You still have civil servants to pay. Last fiscal year, you didn't settle those things. So by bringing $10 over to the new fiscal year doesn't necessarily give you surplus. It only gives you carry forward. You know, so the minister lied.
Oh, okay, Martin. We have roughly few minutes, like 10 minutes, to wrap up on this program. We are looking at the budget. We asked Martin to give us his parting comment to summarize. For those of you who just joining us, Martin been discussing the issue of budget, Liberia budget, the draft budget before the national legislature, and he has been giving us some of the things that are there in as working government is going to work with to ensure that hey, our people, the county development fund, what's there for agriculture, what's there for education. But let me just take a few minutes break and bring our sponsor. If you are looking for insurance company, we have the Peter Massaquoi Insurance Company. He's engaged in auto insurance, home insurance, commercial insurance. So you can call the number you see 609 571 3037. That's the Peter Massaquoi Insurance Agency. He's a Liberian, a very young Liberian engaged into insurance business. For cheap, affordable insurance, you can call Peter Massaquoi if you are in the US, if in Minnesota, in New Jersey, in what part of the US you are from, you can call the Peter Massaquoi Insurance Company. The phone number is on the screen, 609 571 3037 for all of your best auto insurance and very cheap, very cheap insurance premium you're going to get. So let's go back to our guests, Martin K and Kollie, as we wind down this interview in a nutshell. For those people who just coming, can you just summarize? Who gave you like 10 minutes to summarize and give a clear understanding of what's there for education, health, agriculture. President said even his hierarchy, a government official, President we are rather his hierarchy and his government official, and what's there for the ordinary people, and what's your suggestion to our lawmakers? The floor is here for 10 minutes.
Thank you, Nathan, and I would like to appreciate you so much for this opportunity. Initially, I had thought that the government who have sent a representative for us to go line by line in this budget, for them to tell the Liberian people whether this budget is actually pro-poor or not. Unfortunately, the very budget they crafted, they are unable to defend it. This is the hypocrisy of their government. You know, how can you craft something and you are unable, whenever journalists call you to come and justify or defend it across the table, you are afraid to come into a debate. You know, so it's unfortunate. You cannot run a government like that. Anything you craft, anything you create, or anything you tell the people, you must be able to defend it. That's good governance. You cannot just craft something from the blue sky without, you know, considering the interest of the people. No. You know, so I would like to make a few recommendations because I have said a lot relative to almost like all the sectors in the budget. You know, recommendation number one, like I said, the government needs to readjust. The money they are giving the agriculture sector is too small. You cannot give the agriculture sector 6 point. You cannot give the agriculture sector 6.4 million. No. In fact, this is a violation of a regional protocol that was signed in Maputo, Mozambique, to be specific. You know, each African government, according to that declaration, is called the Maputo Declaration, should have at least 10% allotted or appropriated to the agriculture sector. Liberia is just allotting 4.1%. It's a violation of that protocol, nature. So I would like to recommend an increment in the agriculture sector's budget. Because without the agriculture sector, our economy will remain dead. I can say this with clarity and distinction. If we cannot invest in agriculture, if we cannot invest in our soil, if we cannot add value to raw materials and begin to manufacture value added, we are not going anywhere. We'll continue to import and import just to consume. Let's invest. Let's invest. Why are we having 500 hectares of arable land? A land that can grow our own staple food. But why are we not growing our own food? We are depending on India. We are depending on Pakistan. We are depending on China for food. You know, after 173 years. After 173 years, we are still exporting latex. We are still exporting latex. We are still exporting palm. We are still exporting cocoa, coffee. When we export all of these cash crops, then we begin to import. We begin to import the coffee, cocoa, tire. When we export iron ore, we begin to import iron. You know, so don't we have the vision or the capacity to begin to manufacture, to begin to add value to these traditional exports so that we even create surpluses, we create new markets, put people back to job, create employment. Youth unemployment is 85%. Why are we doing about that? So the only way to get, in fact, the only way to resolve inflation right now is to invest in agriculture, agroeconomic productivity. Inflation will continue to increase. And as inflation increases, it affects purchasing power. It affects household income. It affects nominal GDP. It affects nominal wage. You know, so we can only get rid of inflation if we begin to attract foreign currencies to the economy. We cannot be dependent on aid. We cannot be dependent on loan. We cannot be dependent on grant. This is not the best economic approach to consider. Let us tap on our natural resource potential to create wealth in our country and to create wealth for the people. When we begin to do that, there will be genuine development, economic stability, which will eventually lead to prosperity for all of our people. The next thing they need to do, they also need to invest in energy and environment. You know, look at what they are giving the sector. They are giving this whole sector 12.2 million. They cut down the budget of the energy and environment sector from 15.9 million to 12.2 million. This is pathetic, nature. Already only 12% of the population has access to electricity. Then you're cutting down the energy sector budget. Look at how vulnerable our environment is. Then you're cutting down the environment budget. Look at the budget of the Environmental Protection Agency. Just 1.3 million. What can 1.3 million do in terms of protecting our environment from probably degradation? Those biodiversity challenges, global warming, for example. What can 1.3 million do? You know, so imagine a lot of our people live in rural Liberia, more than 52% of our population. They live in rural Liberia. Out of that percentage, only 2% has access to electricity. Yet we've cut the budget of the energy sector. Does this make sense to anybody? So let's increase the budget of the energy and environmental sector. Recommendation number 2. Because when we do this, we are also creating jobs for our people. Because if, for example, only 12% of our people have access to electricity, if we invest more in energy, that number will increase. People can begin to run their cell phone booths. They don't need to depend on government for jobs. They can begin to do their cold water business. So the government are even thinking about areas where the people will create jobs for themselves. If you increase your output in terms of access to electricity or power, a lot of these companies that are actively operating in the country will not be running their own generator. They will come and get electricity from you. That money going in your coffers. That money is going in your account. And you even encourage more companies from abroad to come to the country because you have a stable electricity. But look at the thing you're doing to the energy sector. You've cut the budget of the energy sector. This is pathetic. You know, we have to do more, nature. We have to do more. And I'm calling on the we-are-led government to think twice, think otherwise, and readjust this budget. When I say the we-are-led government, I'm talking about the legislature. And I guess some of them are listening to some of these recommendations and analysis. But again, do we trust them later? No. At the end of the day, they will receive brown envelopes, they will receive kickbacks, and they will turn their back on some of these necessary things that require due diligence. And this budget will pass with all them considering the most important areas. With all them considering the most important areas. You know, so I just want to call on the we-are-led government. You know, look at what they do. Look at what they did to education. Most of the institutions' budgets have been cut in the draft national budget. For example, look at youth and sport. Later, look at youth and sport. Look at the amount given to youth of the country. 65% of our population accounts for the young people, according to UNDP. But the we-are-led government has only allotted $3,461,693 for youth development under the Ministry of Youth and Sports. So you think people care about youth development, about capacity building, about rehabilitating youth at risk? No, they don't. And this is what saddens me as an activist, as a student of economics. This is what saddens me. When national leaders or national policy makers do not consider the well-being, the interest and welfare of the people who elected them. It's really sad. Look at what they're giving JFK. Look at what they're giving Tabata Hospital. Look at what they're giving other health facilities. So it's really sad. It's really, really sad. Look at the health sector. Like I said, they need to increase the budget of the health sector, the education sector, the agriculture sector, even the security sector, the accountability and transparency sector, as well as the rule of law sector. It's very important going forward. And I hope they are listening to some of these recommendations. Besides just talking these things, I have written down these things in various analysis and articles published. But again, who is listening? They don't care. Every day when I say these things, they say Martin Kollie hates the government, Martin Kollie hates President. How will the country be developed when you only have one-sided view? Everybody must agree with the president. In their mind, everybody must agree with the president. Anybody who disagrees with the president hates the president. That is their definition of hate. And everybody will not agree with the president. I have fundamentally disagreed with the president on many occasions. Because I love the country more than I love the president. I love my people more than I love the president. And that is the bottom line. The reason why I do what I do is because I'm provoked by some of these poor policy decisions of government under the CDC and President Weah. So generally, later, this budget is a pro-Weah budget. It's not a pro-poor budget. It is a pro-rich budget. It is a pro-elite budget. And the numbers are just visible to analyze. Even elementary students can go through these lines and tell you why and how this budget is a pro-rich or a pro-elite budget and not a pro-poor budget. So I would like to say thank you for the opportunity. We've been on actually for I think more than 3 hours or almost 3 hours, you know.
Yes, almost 3 hours, 2 hours, 58 minutes. So we just need to wrap up in the next 2 minutes. So it was nice meeting you and discussing, picking your minds on the issues unfolding like during our budget. We hope to invite you on this platform. Like I told you last time, we're still trying to talk to some of the crafters of the budget that you guys can come on this platform to discuss unfolding issues.
Which will be very important, you know? In fact, that has been my request because you can have one side. You can have one side. I am an activist. I am saying the budget is not pro-poor, and they are saying the budget is pro-poor. So there are two sides. Why are they afraid to come and defend what the craft incompetent the government is to even defend its own policy? You know, so it's good that you have me on today. I have provided enough. I'm willing to, but through a debate this time around, I hope one of them will come to defend this draft national budget that is before the legislature for passage. Let's talk about the budget before it expires. You know, they've crafted it. Why are they running away from their crafted budget? You know, so thank you, Nathan. Thanks to KMTV family for this opportunity to express my thoughts on the draft national budget 2020-2021. Like I said, I will continue to protect the ultimate interests of the Liberian people. This is my foremost role and responsibility as an activist, a former student leader, and an economist, an emerging economist. You know, so this is what I do, and this is what I'll continue to do until all of our people in slum communities, in hamlets, in rural areas are delivered from the dungeon of poverty. My focus is Liberia. My focus is equality. My focus is justice. My focus is economic freedom. My focus is gender parity. My focus is prosperity for all Liberians, regardless of tribe, political affiliation, or economic status. This is where I stand. I stand on the side of the people. I stand on the side of history. So thank you very much, Nathan. Thanks to KMTV family. I appreciate the opportunity. God bless you. God bless our people back home and Liberians who are out of Liberia. God bless the Republic and save the state from the prevailing nightmare under the CDC-led leadership. Thank you very much.
That's Martin K. That's Martin K. and Kollie, student activist, politician, and he been here looking at the draft national budget.
I'm now a politician. I'm an activist.
Okay, look, I got a pop quiz for you, Martin, and this could win a scholar, or maybe $50 for somebody, or maybe any student you wish to help, and they can pick up the cash from KMTV in Liberia. You just give them the information, they go and pick up. But you got to answer this question: do you know who is this?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That is Abraham Lincoln. That is the portrait of Abraham Lincoln.
You just did it. So you have just won a school or some school campaign for anybody you just recommended to go to KMTV, and they can pick up this weekend. They can pick up the cash of $50. So thanks. You've just put smile on the face of somebody. Just send their names to me, and they will go and pick up their stuff and reference your name. So I will give you the security code before somebody on the broadcast hearing it. They go rushing there. So we also thanks for appearing. It appears that Mr. Kollie is off this broadcast. Look, this is how we like to end this edition of the program. We have been discussing the national budget in Liberia. What is it there for education? What is it there for health? What is it there for other social services? And we are proud to be sponsored by the Peter Massaquoi Insurance Agency. They are located in New Jersey, but they provide services to almost all parts of the USA. So the phone number is on the screen. You can just call 609-571-307 for very low rate insurance. He's a Liberian-owned entrepreneur. So you need to support our Liberian owned. Instead of going to State Farm, Gago, all the big insurance agency in the US, let's call this number for very low insurance for our vehicles, for our home, for our families, and support this Liberian owned. And Peter is also doing a couple of projects in Liberia. So let's support this low cost insurance agency. And we hope to invite more other people on this platform to discuss the draft national budget. On this program, my name is Nathan Charles on behalf of the entire team in Liberia and the USA. I want to say have a good day. And Martin Kollie just won a prize looking at Abraham Lincoln because he's a student of politics, and what Abraham Lincoln did for free slave, to go to Africa, including our beloved country of Liberia. As a student of history, you must know that. So this is always by my side. It helped to tell me, hey, people fought for freedom in the US. So we are here. We need to also help to sustain our democracy. So until we come your way again, have a good day and enjoy. Bye. My name is Nathan Charles on this edition. Have a good day.